Glenn's going to lead off a little bit.
Oh, okay. Just guide us as to how we want to sift through all this and what we really should do as moving forward.
Okay. Mike, can we have the overhead? I think hopefully. Yeah, zero in on that.
That's better.
You want to read that?
All that.
Well, what I thought I'd do is not belabor the point, but at least go over the last year that we've spent with our beautiful comprehensive plan. So we've had study sessions with the planning board on January 14th, on January 28th. Then we went into a study session with the city council and talked about it in detail, I think, for over an hour on February 26th. They pointed out a few issues, not a lot. And then we went back with the planning board and had additional study sessions on March 25th and April 8th. And then had another study session with city council on May 6th. That was actually between your meetings, so it was actually a Monday night. The council was interested and they didn't want to put you out on another meeting, but in essence they did anyhow. But anyhow, that was also a good session. And we heard a few more comments, but I think what rings in my ears is kind of a get her done attitude that you have a good product here and let's finalize it. So then we spent 2 more study sessions finalizing the last bits of the wording. Then at that point we took it back and produced the graphic copy that you have with the additional maps and an intro and a few other things. And then we, just as a part of the end of our regular meeting, we talked about this process that laid out a first hearing on October 14th, a study session on October 16th. I put a question mark in there because as you see, you have a lot of information. There's a lot to go through, so perhaps we look at another study session, maybe another hearing. But again, I think we're still in good shape to be on track on October 28th for a second hearing. Perhaps, I'm hoping, the planning board would make a recommendation at that point. And then really the third hearing would be with City Council, and we're proposing that to be November 5th. But again, that's really is based on your action. And I guess I'd just like to state that I think you do have a great plan here. You know, as I go through it, and I've read a lot of comprehensive plans, believe me, it's not great reading. And I think going into this, we wanted a readable document. And it's aspirational. We set the vision, I think, really well. And then there's a couple of unique things that was really what you created, and I think it was a great idea, and that's the transformative perspectives. These are the things that as we look at the various goals and policies and ultimately objectives when we get into the more detailed plans, these I guess I look at as kind of the lens we're going to look at those through. Or a lot of times when you look at a map, you know, you might have you might squint your eyes in order to see the real important dark and light areas of a picture or a map. That's kind of what I see the transformative perspectives. Then we go into the goals and policies. Some of those actually, and I think we heard some comments from Monday night, and Dennis will point them out, are actually right out of our downtown plan. Because you did want to put an emphasis on downtown again, which I think is totally appropriate. When we're talking about the citywide goals of the comprehensive plan, you're really building a base for all these other plans. So some of the language in the goals and policies come directly out of that downtown plan. And then we have the transformative action. So even as we're dreaming and going through the important goals for the community and keeping it high level, You still wanted to keep those important projects, those important things that is really going to make Littleton even better. And I think that's kind of a stroke of genius in a lot of ways. So I guess just starting off, there were a couple of things we wanted to get out. One of them, I guess, building on this, and what we have here for you tonight, if you have your tablet, we sent you all these same documents, but what we've made an attempt to is if we got written comments from the board members, Dennis has gone ahead and gone through the draft and shown those changes, and we can walk through that. And then we also got some good comments from some residents on Monday night. Seems a long time ago, but it was only Monday night. And if they were specific to a page, Dennis also showed those changes as well. But then there were some bigger concerns, and I guess number one, I guess asking the board, is there a big subject matter that perhaps we missed? I don't know that there was. There was a lot of discussion about annexation on Monday night, so maybe that's something you want to revisit, maybe not. But is there perhaps anything else that's a big thing? And then is the process truncated? Do you think this process ought to be a longer process? I think that was also a major theme that we heard. I think we've reached out. We've got a lot of good comments. We provided you a whole lot of them, and I don't know that we're going to get through them tonight. That's why I may be thinking, do we want to look at another study session before October 28th? And then finally, I guess there was one other thing I was supposed to bring up. Level of detail. I think that's another thing that we heard over and over. And as you know, we talked about that in a lot of detail of whether we provide that here or not. And again, I guess my point would be this is the base for the rest of the comprehensive plan. And that's where you're going to really, when you get into your neighborhood plans, your corridor plans, I think that's the appropriate place to get into the detail, get into the pragmatic stuff of size of roadways, sidewalks, all those kind of details of how you build a city. But this is kind of that aspirational document, and I think it hits the mark. But I'm a little biased, so we're ready to kind of walk through this for you. If there's anything that perhaps you'd like to put out on the table at this point, we'd love to hear it.
What does the summary represent?
The summary really is just kind of my analysis and our analysis going through and just saying, what did we hear, the kind of the key points, what did we hear over and over again from people? What do we think probably the things that you really want to consider most? And this isn't all inclusive necessarily. There may be other things that we've missed, and we certainly don't put them in there thinking that these are necessarily comments we agree with or comments we don't agree with. These were just comments we heard, and so we thought they're important.
Hey, Dennis.
We broke it down in
Dennis, can you get a little closer?
Oh, I sure can. I'm sorry.
Echoing
Thank you.
here a little bit, so thank you.
We broke it down in a couple different categories. We have format, which is kind of, and these overlap a lot, but the format is more the specificity that Glenn was talking about. Is it detailed enough or not? So it's really that kind of broad format question. The second category was process, and that is, do we need more meetings? It's that kind of issue, again, that came up. Text, and that was getting into more specific language. And we heard a lot of it was consistent, I think, in terms of, so I've kind of outlined when they talked about needing definitions, needing more specificity, I went through and listed the things that I either had heard, other people had heard, Karina sent in notes. We got a lot of written comments that you have in another document there. So that came out of the text comments. And then the last one was graphics and photos. And again, we heard consistently, let's make sure they're all Littleton photos. And I think there was a sense that maybe we could have a little bit more analysis on the demographics and a little bit more trend data or at least regional perspective in terms of how these things fit. So that all kind of fits together in that. So this is probably the key thing in my perspective, but that doesn't mean it's all inclusive. The track changes is going through, as Glenn said, and actually going through the plan itself and trying to incorporate the changes that you had made, Mark and LaDonna and Andrew, and Karina's comments and all the comments we got from the board, as well as some of the key comments that we got from the public hearing, where they were talking about specific citations in the draft. So that's what that one is. That's probably the second most important, perhaps. And then the third one is the full list of all the public comments we've received to date, from most recent to the first one we got. So they're kind of reverse order in terms of how you might think about seeing them, but they were the ones that came in. So the most recent one came in this afternoon at 2:51, it looks like. So we held it open until about 5:30, and it didn't see anything beyond that. And actually, I just checked now, and there was nothing else. And then the board comments. These are the comments from the board members themselves, what we've gotten in writing from you, including what we got from Edward, who could not be here tonight, and what we got from Carrie, who couldn't be here tonight. So there are comments from both of them as well. So that was the sense. We didn't. It's a little hard to organize since there's so much information, but hopefully this helps a little bit.
Right. What I'd like to do is have each of the board members kind of share a quick synopsis of their impressions of the hearing comments and their own thoughts. And then once everybody's had their, couple of minutes or whatever, then we can hopefully, based upon what we hear, decide how we want to proceed. So we can go randomly, or we can start at one end, or so whoever's ready, just chime in on your thoughts.
I'll start just because I'll be brief. So I wasn't here, but I did watch it on TV. I think for me, the overarching was the need for specificity. So I think this is, again, a plan that looks different, even just in its form, that it's so much lighter than previous drafts or previous plans. And I think that it was designed to be that way, that at least this part of the plan was to be a little bit more broader. And so I think, while I understand, that being uncomfortable, even as a board member, it's uncomfortable as I think about how do I use this going forward. I do feel the importance of the small area plans and the neighborhood plans is really where more of that detail needs to exist, as well as other document zoning, et cetera. So while I appreciate those comments and I do actually understand them, I think that was our intent, and what our goal is that this is a broader visionary document. All that being said, there are some nuggets of information that I think were shared with the public, that the public shared with us, and I think it's probably captured in some of these detailed comments that just were good points. So I do think it's worthwhile to go through each point, and maybe not each, but maybe some of the summary points, and really say, yep, that was a good catch or a good point. Let's address that one. It does make a difference. So that's how I would think about tonight as well.
Okay.
Someone else?
I guess I'll go. I'll probably be fairly brief as well. I would have to agree that, I heard a lot about specifics. It seems to me that in the short time that I've been doing this, when we get a lot of people at any of these meetings, or whether we get a few people, it's 99.9% of them are against whatever we're doing. The people who are for it don't show up. They really, I guess they feel that because they're for it, they can just stay away. It'd be great to get more people who supported something to show up for it. But it seems to me, with the Broadstone project, we got a lot of people. A lot of citizens were against it, and we just didn't have that many people here. So I take that as not that there weren't that many people that heard about it, but that there weren't that many people that were against it. And maybe most of those, I would hope that most of those people liked the plan if they even bothered to read it. And I think the way it stands, it looks really good to me as far as, I think a comment was made, I can't remember who said it, that when a project when something comes up at that particular time, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, that's when we're going to decide, that city council, that planning board, those citizens are going to decide whether that project is good for them. We don't need to get into so much specifics that we're saying this project is going to go on this corner. And not only that, we don't really have the expertise for that or the knowledge. So just giving a broad definition of what we think the direction of Littleton should be is better than getting into a lot of specifics. So that's mine. I think that we could have a few more definitions. Probably smart streets is probably one of them that stood out. But again, I don't want to have so many definitions that it's 12 pages long again like we had before. There was mention the fact that there was no mention of RTD. I think we did have mention of the light rail. In the connected Littleton section, maybe we can mention RTD as a general linkage. Maybe we don't even have to name it specifically, but just, we do have linkages other than cars. We have public transportation, I guess. That includes buses as well as the light rail. The comments about the pictures, I think some people said that they wanted to have all Littleton pictures, but some of these pictures outline things that we'd like to see in Littleton that aren't there right now. Maybe I don't know specifically, but maybe the water tower picture from North Dakota is a good one, but a picture of the interior of a coffee shop from somewhere else where we have coffee shops in town, maybe that could be looked at. And, I just had one more, just one minor thing, where you mentioned the Metro Vision Plan. When I went on to DRCOG, it said it was enacted in 2011 or adopted in 2011. I don't know if it was amended then, but I didn't see it.
It'll be amended now, right?
Being amended now for 2040, I think it's every 5 years, David, so it probably was 2009, I think, is probably when it was adopted.
Okay.
And it certainly was amended every 2 years for minor details.
Okay. Well, on the site, at least I searched for Metro 35, and it said 2011, so I don't know. However that. So that's all I have, I guess.
Mark?
Okay. I thought it was a good meeting Monday. It was nice to have fresh pairs of eyes looking at something we've been slogging through for the last over a year and a half, whatever, 2, okay. I say with a little trepidation, but I would hope that tonight, rather than just each board member making their presentation as to what they want to change, if we could perhaps go through it page by page. I think we'll get through it faster if we go that route and just say, page 1, you got any problems? Page 2, what do you got problems with? Things I picked up from Monday, definite anxiousness about annexation. I think we should talk about that a little further. Maybe a single word or 2 change would be in order. Minor word changes. I had some editing comments, and LaDonna had a couple of things too that I'd like included. It's still not in the document. It's got to be. We got to smooth out the wording without changing the intent whatsoever. Pictures. I'd like to go through each picture, like I say, page by page, and pictures that we jettison and have some suggestions as to where we can find our gateway. A lot of comments Monday about the sketchiness, and I think maybe hopefully people understand that we'll have area plans, corridor plans, neighborhood plans, all kinds of plans coming up that'll keep us quite busy for the next forever, and that will flesh out the perhaps the sketchiness of what we consider to be a preamble. Let's see. There were some questions about people, comments about, gee, there wasn't much of a sample. 40,000 people in Littleton didn't participate. Well, I don't want 40,000 people that were notified heavily for the last year and a half to participate who didn't. They should not hold this document as hostage because they didn't participate. I talked to a former planning commissioner yesterday in the grocery store asking what I was doing told her, she said, "Oh, I haven't bothered reading it, I'm not interested." This is the former planning commissioner. So on my block, there might be, minus the 2 council members that live on my block, there might be 2 people that are interested, and the rest, 20, 30 houses, totally wouldn't care. Have no idea what we're doing. So that's what I got from the meeting and the comments about what we can do tonight.
I would second, just going through page by page, I think would be a heck of a lot faster just to fly through this. I've got 2 notes on each page, and I'm actually really proud that I'm down to 2 notes on each page. And to that end, have also had a chance to go through my notes from Monday, read through everything except for the last 2 emails that showed up here this afternoon, so I feel very prepared there. This track changes document is not complete, by the way. It's missing a ton of pages. So, for example, it might just be a printer error.
Now, are those track changes for everything since the last iteration or just recently?
Yes, this is everything since, this is the, should be.
Since you changed something. So I'm going to ignore that document because it's not complete, and I'll just tell you, hoping that you have a full document in front of you to.
Weird.
We have it electronically, so we can go
through it.
page by page.
Right.
I
You got
have it
there.
manually.
Yep.
Okay.
So. You killed all the trees, not me.
You have more?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
But I'll try to limit it to the whole thing. I would like to go page by page, and I'm willing to put that in for tonight. I think the document needs a letter up front, a cover letter from the probably from the council or the mayor that says, "Thank you for paying attention to this." I heard that the other day. I'll just get to some specific plans or specific points that are more broad in nature. I don't think the planning board should do anything with neighborhood plans right now, and we're not. I would ask that process to be considered totally separate to this process, and once this door is closed, then we go and we embark on the neighborhood planning process and build a totally separate strategy on how we're going to get that accomplished. To Mark's point of engagement and participation, I think that's going to be a whole different thing to catch. 1, 2, the code, as the rubber hits the road, and Dennis, I think your arrow or pyramid or whatever we're calling this is brilliant. I think it's a very nice document to explain to people. But the code does need a ton of work. There was a comment the other day about also looking at the type of zones we have, the mixed-use zone, the TOD zone. Fully support that idea. I think we shouldn't limit ourselves there when we get to codes, and I don't know that when we're going to get to that just yet. I do support, and this we're going to get to it again when we talk about page 1.7, which is the list of all the plans. But tying all of these things together legally, the small area plans, the corridor plans, the economic plans, the other neighborhood plans, to tie all of those together as one cohesive legal document and state as such. And if nothing else, that we are a snapshot in time, and that this snapshot in time, these are all the plans that Littleton's working on right now, and these are all the things we want you to continue. I would be supportive of that. Again, sort of specific to one of the points, I also support not being so open-ended on the Metro Vision 2035 thing. I think we should probably put, we will likely support it, we're probably going to be in favor of it, some nice words about that, but without seeing the plan, we don't think that that's our best thing. Data is what I heard. That there's business data, median incomes, marketing analytics, household size, school age population, average age. I think we could create a whole appendix of data points as a current snapshot, as well as any projections we may have from other departments within the city that are doing something very similar. And as I said, that comment and then the code comment, I'm of the opinion that a comprehensive plan should be comprehensive. And so it should have every snapshot of everything that we're working on, so we give it to you once, and there's never a chance that a developer or anybody would ever walk in and say, do I have everything? And the answer is, yes, you do have everything. Here is the comprehensive plan as of whatever day this moves forward, is what I think we should do there. So data, and rather than put it in the document, which I think would bog down the document, just create it as an appendix snapshot to that. I also heard specifics and SMART objectives and things like that, and I'm not sure how to wrestle with that. I agree that we intended this to be a high-level visionary document. I agree that SMART objectives are appropriate and necessary, and there is more finite definition, and I wonder if that should live within the small area plans more so, because I'm not sure how to tackle it at this hour with this, so I'll just leave that as an open-ended comment. I do like the, and this comes from a comment I read today, they were commenting that it's sort of vague and it's a high-level vision, and it could be open to developer interpretation. And I agree, and I would say it's also, and this is something I'm excited about, and I think, Karina, you had mentioned the ability to use this document, think about a case, and then say, is this going to add it? And I think it also offers the flexibility that we would want to defend ourselves and to say it does or does not meet a capability, and be this entire document screams of citizen engagement. And it is a required necessity for this entire thing to work. And that would, this document then with the loose definitions would allow whoever is sitting up in whatever chair that they're in to make that thing. So I'm supportive and think that direction is good. I also, relative to the chances to comment and feedback, I think the city is offering numerous opportunities. I'm frankly, if we can get through this and go page by page, and I feel satisfied at the end of this next 2-week process, I'm hopeful that we can move forward, and I'd be proud to put my name on it, unlike others that have stated that they wouldn't. I without doubt, would be proud to do that. I think there's been numerous opportunities to comment. I don't think anybody has been denied a chance to speak, and kudos to you, Randy, for the meeting the other day. I was very afraid when you said it's an open microphone, and you can say whatever you want. I kind of regressed a little bit.
After 12 minutes, okay, we're going to do 10.
But I'm glad that everybody had their chance. Everybody had their say, and it was not without time, and I appreciate that happened. There's also, in the course of this process, Glenn, as you just read out, depending on how this plays out, there's been 2 planning hearings that are public hearings that action is taken afterwards. There's a separate meeting here. There's going to be a council meeting. That's at least 4 times for somebody to meet, in addition to Inspire Littleton, in addition to every other thing that we've done along here. I do not think that there has been a lack of opportunity for public input, and I think enough time has lapsed there. I would like to see more metrics in whole in this document. I don't know that we're going to get to it and back to the high-level vision. Maybe that should be considered as an action item. Procedurally, I think I'd like to forward this plan when we get there as an amendment to the current plan, which was one of the options, instead of as a complete replacement, just amend this portion and then give it a new blessing and a new date and call it a new plan. And then I do have some other recommendations for council as secondary actions once this moves forward. So,
Thank you.
there you go.
Kurt.
Great. I think Andrew was looking at my paper. Great comments. I had many of the same things. The Dr. Cog plan, I think we need to look at that. That's over with. I think we need to comment about the high level of this particular part of the plan, that it is over a 30,000-foot overarching for the city, and people think it's specific to their neighborhood. And so when we flesh out the neighborhood plans, that'll bring that all together. I think we need to comment about the corridor studies and how they will influence board members, or should they influence board members. We've got the Littleton corridor study, which was not adopted by council, but it's floating around out there that people think it really is important. Is it not? We should make some comment about any of the additional studies that we're adding in here. Have they been adopted, or what is the definition of what council has done with them, and how do we look at them? Are we adding them in, and do we look at them just like we would look at a neighborhood plan, or is it just a reference material information that we have outstanding? And obviously when we get those other studies in 14 and 15, the same with those. Are we going to adopt them and incorporate them into the plan? You know, about annexation, a couple of the people that were in the audience that had some questions about annexation actually came up to me afterwards and said, oh, I see. Now I'm not so concerned about what we have in the plan. I think maybe just an additional sentence explaining perhaps that we're not advocating any annexation, but there is potential opportunity since we are not landlocked People think that we are, and we're not. You know, as far as the public input goes, I don't know what we can do more. I'm probably the senior member on this board right now, and I remember at least 4 or 5 different meetings we had in this room, in the room next door, and at Hudson Gardens, where we begged for community input, and we had a lot of input at the time. That was almost 5 years ago. So some of these people may not remember or weren't engaged at that point. So we can't go back and change that. I think we've had sufficient community input, and I think we can move forward with additional input this week and next, and make this plan come together.
Thank you. Adana?
Well, after the last meeting, I think that I left the room mostly with the point about, you know, being more detailed, more goal-oriented, being able to measure the plan and so forth. And Randy and I were talking afterwards, and he mentioned the Golden Comprehensive Plan. And so, you know, for my benefit of understanding what do goals look like in comprehensive plans, I went to the Golden Comprehensive Plan, and I actually spent a whole lot more time looking at it than ours, just to really understand, you know, because it won an award, so I wanted to know how does it come together, what goes into it, and that kind of thing. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's a great document. It's their document, not our document. But it's a great document. But what I saw structurally different from theirs to ours was it's not so much in the content, it's the way it's presented. And that each of their sections has a value theme, which equates to either a goal statement or an action statement on our part. And then underneath that value theme, there is a goal, where ours is our sub-bullet, which, for instance, on Goal 1, foster a vibrant and evolving community. And then they go into strategies, strategy 1.1, 1.2. It's a lot about nomenclature, but it's also a lot about how it's presented. And one of the fundamental things that they do is they use a lot of action verbs when they're talking about provide a safe, convenient, well-maintained biking and walking opportunities. Some of their bullet items start out with adhere to the complete streets policy adopted by council, continue and carry out the 2008 walkability and bike task force recommendations, advance Golden's bike-friendly community designation. So they're action verbs. Every one of these goals pretty much starts with a verb that say what you're going to do and what it refers to, and it's often referring to a policy document or some overarching big blanket plan of what we're going to do. So a lot of it has to do with nomenclature, but at the end of the day, when you talk about goals and metrics, they have a section at the very, very end that says, here's how we're going to measure this. We're going to conduct a community survey every 5 years that say, on each of these goals, meaning on our bullet points, we will have one question, and are we up, neutral, or down on that goal kind of thing. So it's a really nice way to, you know, it's not a fundamental rewrite, but it's really looking at it from a different lens of structuring it around, you know, value, goal, strategy. And I have to say one other thing that I was really fascinated by, that every single goal ends with a statement that says, land use cases shall be evaluated according to the following considerations. And so it tells you around that goal, here's what we're going to be looking at if a land use case comes before us. You know, how awesome is that? So that was, I'm not prepared today to, you know, say page by page what that looks like, because this really took a lot of time to think about it and how to kind of, how we might get this, you know, into more of that format. It's not that the content is not here. It's really how we say what we're going to do. probably could be more action-oriented. I guess that was kind of my takeaway on the whole thing. And the other was some graphics. For instance, you know, there's some confusion, I think, from the public of what drives what. You know, do you have to have this and this and this in place before you can do a comprehensive plan, or do all these things, you know, glom onto it? Well, there's a beautiful graphic saying, okay, the comprehensive plan attaches with the neighborhood plans, which feeds the park plans, the transportation plans, the sustainability plan, the economic development plan. So it said, and then the budget ultimately. So it's saying kind of the flow of what feeds what and what feeds off of what, kind of thing. And last but not least, even just some hand graphics of street sections or you know, aerial section views, really literally hand drawings, but you know, kind of to articulate a point, really to say what this looks like, you know, as an example to the community and so forth. So in my mind, there's these little incremental steps that might really actually go a long way in making this more clear. That's what I took away, but I certainly didn't come prepared with that in my hip pocket tonight, unfortunately. But those were my thoughts. It was a learning experience. I am the junior member of this board, so I came into this way after, you know, this process has been going on for a long time, and I'm not here to turn it on its head. That's just my observation that I took away after studying another comprehensive plan. So.
Thanks. I have a lot of the same observations, so I'll just repeat or reemphasize some of the ones that stand out for me. I want to make sure that the comprehensive plan is viewed as one document, like we've already said, meaning the citywide section and the neighborhood section are one document, that they're not, because they are now, they are currently one document, correct? So when you say comprehensive plan, that includes the neighborhood plans. And so even though we have two different bound documents with two different titles, at the end of the day, I think it's one book. I think it's one document. But even within that, there was some confusion with Broadstone as to which part of the comp plan and which corridor plan had precedent, you know, because there was some conflict over what the corridor plan might have said versus what the Stern Park neighborhood subsection said versus what the citywide goals might have said. And so that includes the corridor plans. I think we've already stated that the corridor plans in the future will be also part of the comp plan. Is that correct? Correct. And so we're gonna kind of bundle all these various pieces into one document at the end of the day. It may take a couple of years to finish them all, if not more. But at the end of the day, they're all going to have the same weight, the same authority. But there might need to be, if we don't have it already, well, the reason I like the fact that the citywide goals and sections are general is that the sub-plans, the neighborhood plans, the corridor plans, the intent is that they will be more specific. So you can point to a citywide goal, but then you can go to, as we move into those plans, hopefully, you can go into a neighborhood plan, and maybe there's some linkage to, okay, here's how that particular general citywide goal becomes specific in the neighborhood plan for that neighborhood. So that in the Broadstone hearing, I think there was a lot of weight put on the Stern Park neighborhood plan because that's the neighborhood that seemed to have the most impact. And the citywide goals weren't as, I mean, they were used, referenced, but it was the Stern Park and the Littleton Corridor plans that were being used a lot more because they had more detail. And that was the intent, that's the idea, is as you move down in more specificity, that gives you more directive as to what is acceptable and what is not. So I think we all agree that we want to make sure that all these documents are tied together, and we heard that from the neighborhood too. There was a comment, or I think there's several people commented that various goals, they didn't know what they meant. You know, encourage economic growth through these tools, and we list a few of what those tools are, and it was like, oh, I don't know what that means. Please explain what that means so that we know exactly what is intended and what potentially it could result in. Well, we can't explain it clearly for everybody, and that's why, I don't know who said it, Mark, or one of you said, some of the generalness of a goal gives that particular board at that time the latitude to interpret it based upon the current conditions. Just like a developer could take a goal or a policy and twist it any way he wants to twist it, it's up to staff, the board, and the council to say, well, you're twisting it a different way than we would twist it or use it. And so that's pretty much politics. That's how Congress does it. We're going to interpret it this way. And our way is the right way because we're the one evaluating the plan. So you interpret a general goal or policy a certain way, and then you look at the detailed plan or the more specificity in the neighborhood plan to back up why you're going in that direction. And then you further back that up with what the code says, the zoning code, and other documents. So you got to look at all these pieces in unison at the end of the day. My only concern with, I mean, we can't do it all at one time, but we're going to at some point adopt the citywide goals, but we're still going to have the 30-year-old neighborhood plans. Well, there's a gap in there between when those get updated. And so any applications that come forward after we adopt this new citywide set of goals and policies, there might be some conflict or some confusion with the old neighborhood plan language versus what we have, because we're not going to be able to update all that in one swoop. So we just have to deal with that, I guess, when the time comes. And then annexation, I agree that it might be a concern, but like you said, Kurt, we're not saying we have to annex. We are a municipality, and annexation is a tool that any municipality may have at their disposal, just like all the other tools that they have. But it doesn't say you have to use them. It says if the opportunity arises and if it makes sense. And there's a lot of things that verify whether it makes sense or not. Budgets, capital improvements, utility extensions, all those things. So it's in there just to say, okay, it's a tool. And as a citywide goal, we should have that opportunity to use that tool if appropriate. So that's how I look at the vagueness of some of the goals is we want you to think about it, but when it comes time to implement that or utilize it, you need to use other tools such as the various departments, experts in our departments and the specificity in neighborhood plans to begin to justify why you're implementing that goal. So I agree that we should go through this page by page and just get through it, and after we're done, see where we are. Yes, Mark?
I have one item I want to clear up, and I want to clear it up publicly. Glenn, Carol Brezak had emailed you asking about the process after, if this is adopted, the preamble, asking specifically about neighborhood plans. And your comment, I think if you had a chance, you'd probably rewrite it a bit. You said something about the neighborhood plans are essentially, they need a little tweaking. It probably the vast majority of the neighborhood plans would stay almost the same. And I've read them over the last 15 years, a lot. But the tone of your response was that it almost sounded like staff or planning board would do the tweaking. And I want to make it clear that we will be holding neighborhood meetings. We're going to slog through it, use that word again. Each neighborhood, have open meetings in each neighborhood in a local church or school, what have you. Solicit input just like we did for Inspire Littleton, gather the information, and that's how we redevelop the neighborhood plans. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think what we have going for us now is I think we're close to having a draft of those. I mean, take out the things that are obviously outdated or things we've done already. But certainly, maybe I left that step out. I guess it's just, we don't do anything without the public being involved. Right. So
just wanted to get on record that that's how we're going to handle the neighborhood plans. That's why it's going to take quite a while to do. Okay.
Take a while to do. I won't necessarily agree to that, but I think if we have a good draft, and a lot of them are about protecting neighborhoods, and I don't think that has changed in 30 years. And but things about connecting roads that we know we're not going to do,
there's a few of those. Yes.
Take that out.
So we've already gone through almost an hour, and typically we're done at 9. So
Open it up.
the discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
He did that Monday, too.
Backfired this time.
So
Cover sheet. Got a problem with the cover sheet? Let's go.
we got to throw out your concerns quickly. And what we do tonight doesn't necessarily mean that we can't still go through I just didn't have time to go through the comments in the last 2 days. It doesn't mean we can't we might even decide to have one more quick study session it's up to the board. And then, so if we don't get through it all, we'll decide how we want to move forward. So let's go as quickly as possible through 9 o'clock and see where we are. So the cover, my first comment, what?
Hold on.
Mike,
So what are
have the
we?
projector on? I guess it's on.
Are we looking at this in electronic copy instead of this printed copy?
Oh, you don't have this, do you? Because you weren't here Monday.
Nope.
Do you have any more of these?
Yeah.
Brian needs one.
Or can I look at it?
That's not the same thing.
No.
That should be. No, I said
Hold on. I'll pull it up.
Yeah, 2 comments per page.
Okay. I'm just making long-winded.
So,
You'll show us.
2 long-winded comments.
And
All right. I got it.
So I would start out with the cover in the vein of wanting to make sure this is one document at the end of the day that includes the neighborhood plans. Shouldn't the cover just be comprehensive plan, period, and it's not a citywide plan, because a citywide plan is just one section of the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, we did that, so I think our intent was to show, here's the neighborhood plans, we haven't touched it, and kind of set it aside. Though we did want them graphically to tie together, even though it is 30-year-old language in there. So yeah, even though we have 2 covers, I don't think at the end of the day we intend it to be 2 separate documents.
a comprehensive plan should be comprehensive.
Right. The end of the day being early next month.
Wait.
There will be one document.
Yes.
Right.
The way they appear, probably online, they will be individual documents, just because they'll be small enough files for people to actually pull them up. The other thing we might have is we might put a different cover on this downtown plan. We could put the same cover on with a different photograph and call it comprehensive plan, downtown plan. So, and I think that's typical that when you're going to have a comprehensive plan, you're going to have so many documents by the time you finish that you'll have separate documents, and people aren't going to want the full thing. They're all going to carry this thing back. They're going to want what's specific to what they're looking at, whether it's
But can we-
citywide plus the neighborhood plans, whatever it might be.
But can
So,
we say citywide section versus citywide plan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's a
Citywide
section
element or
of
section,
the-
yeah, absolutely.
of the citywide,
Yeah,
or the
great.
comprehensive plan. Any comments on the table of contents?
I do have one.
You have a comment on the table of contents?
Really?
Okay, it's going to be 10 o'clock.
I know that.
No.
Which is fine, let's get through it.
That is just, when we talked about MetroVision, there was some discussion about wanting to have at least a summary of MetroVision in the appendix. Is that something you want to do, or do we want to just reference it? I think
Has the
my
city-
recommendation, yes, go ahead, Mark. Go ahead.
Has the city accepted MetroVision
Yes, and
2035?
repeatedly accepted it each time it's updated, which the city has to do. It has to go through city council, and there's actually a resolution to adopt it
Okay.
each time.
So
We
it's,
want to talk about that, adopting it wholeheartedly each time it's
Right.
updated. I don't know if we
No,
want to
but
do
we
that.
could, to that section, we could say city approved
change the
metro.
word.
Okay, when we get to that.
And I think that's the advantage of not putting it in the appendix,
Thanks.
On point here.
and not having it in the appendix, but rather have it as a link. Is
Yeah,
that-
we want to link it, but we
Yeah,
want to
absolutely, so not in the appendix.
talk later.
To that end, and maybe it would come later, I think to combine a lot of definitions in the, again, the interest of comprehensive, the economic development plan has 10 pages of definitions. This has 10 pages of definitions. Let's make one City of Littleton definition appendix and roll with that. One.
No.
no.
You don't want to define words that aren't in a document.
No, we can't do that.
So what, but
don't
what we
want
should
super
make sure is that they don't conflict. So if we have a definition of whatever, economic vitality in one and economic vitality in the other, that they have to say the same thing. But I wouldn't, I think the definition belongs with the document.
Yes. Okay. Consistency is my more relevant point there,
I would
correct?
agree with that.
Up front here, just since we're in the very beginning, this is where I'd like to see a letter from the mayor or the council. And I emailed you guys, I don't know if it came through, but I emailed you a ramble this afternoon. Did you get that?
No.
Oh, it was just here's an idea.
Great.
Kind of ramble. And just to give them a script to go from to see where that would go.
Purpose of the letter being what?
Thank you for paying attention to Littleton. We're proud of our little town, and we hope that you find the attached helpful and valuable. Kumbaya. God bless America.
Have a good night's sleep as you try to read it. Okay, all right.
Love City Council.
All right.
It's just a personal touch is what I'm going for there.
Have you seen other comprehensive plans that gets
No.
that folksy?
No, but I think it's, if we are going to be true to ourselves, I think we should present ourselves as ourselves.
A letter from the editor, are there any number of publications that come out have a letter from the person in charge in front of it? I think that's a great idea.
All right. Sets the tone. Okay.
And then lastly, I think adding a data set appendix of all the various disparate data pieces as well as projected trends and things that we've adopted would be relevant for anybody reading this.
What are examples of those data sets?
Things that businesses or developers or anybody would want to know: expected population trends, median incomes, other size businesses, marketing projections, average household size, school age population, average, we have some of these already, average age we've got, population, median income, education level, expected education level.
I wonder if we want to do the same thing that we talked about with the connection to the MetroVision. Because that changes so quickly, we get updates on a regular basis from Dr. Cog. There's a really good summary of key information Dr. Cog puts out. We could also have a link to whatever our economic development department's putting out. So maybe two separate links, so you've got very current information rather than actually having the data in here.
We also have the housing study that we did last summer as well that has a lot of that data. It's geared more towards housing, but I think it talks about incomes as well. Us compared to the region, which would be a real good reference document as well.
What I'm hearing the comment being, though, because I struggled with this as well, we do talk about data and we just show two graphs. So why do we arbitrarily show those two graphs? And those were about the present, but yet this is a document about the future as well. And so what I'm hearing your comment being, Andy, is that at least in that there, within the appendix, we should have some selected data elements that we found, not that it's exhaustive in everything that we looked at, but some key data elements that helped guide our thinking around this, and it gives us the opportunity to put more than just 2 graphs. But again, this is again a point in time, and I do understand things will change, but at the point in time that we evaluated and drafted this document, it was taken into account some key current statistics as well as some forward-looking data.
Your stuff we looked at.
I think the point, I think you mentioned projections too, and it'd be nice to see, and that would kind of add a future element to it if we had 2010, 20, 30 as, projections, what we think today it's going to look like. Then people looking down the road can see, well, it's a lot different than we thought it was going to be.
There may be, because there are so many pictures that you don't like, there may be opportunities to incorporate some data as well versus.
Speaking of pictures,
We're not there yet.
the third page, we've got runners. Cover, we got runners. Can we perhaps change the cover to show the
I don't like
courthouse?
running.
That's the same
You
run.
like running?
I don't like running.
Yeah, so we don't like running. So the cover's got to
Toss me
delete the
down.
runners on the cover. People, it is the same picture. So we have
Should be the finish line, too.
It should be
and
what?
not
Yeah,
the
right.
starting
The finish line. Yeah.
It's, yeah, people falling down at the finish line.
Crawling
Hopefully not.
across.
Okay, so
At any rate, something more Littleton physical.
With a fishing pole is what I was thinking.
No, not the fishing pole and the straw hat. But
can we come back to the
Back
comment?
to the graphs. Mr. Rudnicki, please.
sorry.
Pebble.
Come to order. So what are we going to do with the data?
I think it should be in the appendix, I agree with Andy. But I think we have to figure out what to put in there. I mean, we can't put everything, so I think it's selecting a few, and we'll have to figure out what that is, and then links maybe in the appendix to latest and updated information. That's my opinion.
We've got a great resource. Our deputy city manager put together a dashboard of data for Littleton. In fact, he's presented it to the council. It's everything. It's like 27 pages, but we can pick what we think is kind of key indicator type information. Put together maybe a couple of pages as far as appendix.
I'd like one of the data sets to be the school enrollment. That's something that I think as it relates to the attraction or the serving all generations kind of thing, that, having a population that is sustainable enough to support our schools, I would think would be a really strong goal for the city in order to maintain the high standards of the schools that we have. So I'd like to see that a data set, and also articulate in one of our goals later on where we talk about a diverse population, maybe talk about attracting a population that supports our schools over the long term.
I think that adding this data point also allows that 5-year review to look back at what has changed versus the assumptions that were made then. Back to the point of getting to the very well-defined goals, the SMART goals. With a trend, it's a lot easier to say where we want it to go than a static point that required analysis. So I think to just include things that we might want to use for consideration in future should be the lens that we look through which data should be included.
So Dennis wants you to compile what you think might work. And then the only thing I would add to that is I know that when I've looked through various documents in different places, sometimes the document is old and the link has changed or been expired or shut off. So it might be nice to cite what department it is, so if they can't get the link going, they can at least go to the department and say, hey, what happened to that data? It's not a roadblock.
We'll be checking it every 5 years.
Well, I won't be, but Dennis might.
Changes that much in 5 years.
Okay, page 1.1.
Well, general comment, did anybody look at my edits? Prepared? Anybody having a problem?
They're included in here as are LaDonna's, so, and then we have comments, so if you look, in the.
Just one, LaDonna, you included something, I'd like to put your comment in a separate sentence. It was kind of a run-on sentence. Where is it here? Let's see. Use. Let's see. Vision, goals, transformative action provided herein, period. Users should also rely on relevant neighborhood corridor and neighborhood plans, period. It was a long sentence. I wanted to break it up.
Yeah, that's not me. I'm not sure who that was.
Oh,
but
thought it was.
That's all right.
You're like, I'm not claiming that one.
Oh, it says LaDonna in blue. Okay, whoever.
Well, if you like to comment, that one's mine.
Very poor comment.
I didn't add any comments, so it wasn't me.
I think the comment down the lower right is Ed's. One about add, moreover, the comprehensive plan does not act as a binding legal authority for any or all planning decisions that arise in the future. So he was saying that might respond to some of the concerns people had.
What page is that?
True.
So where's
It's on page 1-1.
Is that true?
Well, the comp plan is a recommendation, right?
Right.
Not
It is a guideline.
guideline. It's
Right.
not a zoning code, a document.
Correct. That's right. And I think that's what he was trying to get at, but it may not come across that way. So.
He was trying to differentiate, it's not a zoning code.
Right.
Is that necessary to spell out?
You should zone consistent with the comprehensive plan, but
Where is that?
Do you guys have the file? Could you pull
Yeah.
it up on your?
I can't.
Can't get yours to pull up?
Yeah, I can't
Mine was
get mine up.
corrected.
Oh,
I got mine.
they're all corrupted.
Bloody done.
I'll make
But
it
it's on
a little
here.
larger here.
It's right here.
Settings and
Over
turn it off and back on usually.
Is that necessary to say in there, Dennis, though, since
I don't know
the
that
original
it is. No, I think we've said
paragraph
it.
purpose, the comprehensive plan provides a broad vision for a city's future?
Or is it?
I think we said it in a positive way versus
Yeah.
Now what do I do?
a
Can't do that.
regulating way.
4 fingers, swipe.
I mean, the way he's written it here, it almost says this doesn't really mean anything.
Right.
Don't swipe with 3, right?
Oh, it does not act as a binding.
Which one is it?
Maybe our legal counsel should look at that and comment on legal opinion. I'm sorry, I'm a little cheeky tonight.
Well, all I can say is that I agree that it's not a binding legal document, that it's a guide to be referenced. So
Find a softer way to say it.
let our
I think
Kevin.
it's perfect in the purpose, in the original paragraph. Screw it.
Let's see what we did this,
Oh, yeah.
Said it once, how many times do you have to say it, and how many different ways?
Okay.
any other input on page 101, 1.1?
No.
Page 1.2, I think it needs a better title. It just says regional map. I know it's putting Littleton in context, but
Metro area map or Denver metro map?
Littleton's context within the region, something like that.
Yeah, I agree.
As well as this would be a great place to put other data. That's a really big map to show an obvious point.
Page 1.3.
More data.
Well, I guess if you're going to put some data, this is where you put it, to support why you're even talking about demographics.
So the question is, bog it down here in the document itself or add it as an appendix?
I think it's in the appendix.
This is where that graphic that we show with the arrow going up could be more of that organizational chart hierarchy that I was mentioning before, saying, you know, the plan, the comprehensive plan, you know, who the governing group is, and then there's the comprehensive plan, and then there's the parks plan, the transportation plan, et cetera, and then there's the city budgets and the capital improvement budgets that come out of that, and so forth. You know, it could be just a bit more detailed because it kind of ties all the plans together graphically and shows what supersedes the next.
How would it look different than what it's showing here, because, and maybe it's a pyramid, as you articulated, Randy, instead of an arrow, that says the comprehensive plan is kind of the foundational guide.
This seems awfully confusing to me.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy about the arrow either,
Okay.
but
Yeah, and
this plan,
Glenn had asked for a pyramid, and we ended up with this. I apologize. So this is kind of what.
And why are those, aren't those small area plans, especially citywide plans, part of the comprehensive plan?
They are. The thought was that they are consistent with comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is the overriding, and so we could almost reverse it in terms of comprehensive plan as
Well,
on top.
or just put comprehensive plan and then list those as sub
Areas
items
of it.
within that.
I'm concerned that you say they override it, because we're not saying that one overrides the other. They are one
Framework forward.
comprehensive document. That is the framework that guides how we're going to further define the small area plans, but one doesn't, to me, it's not like one overrides another.
Well, yeah. The only thought would be that if you end up with a neighborhood that comes up with something that's very inconsistent with what the city as a whole is looking for, then I think you'd have to go back and say, wait a second. If it's inconsistent with the comprehensive plan, what does that mean?
Well, I don't think it should exist. I mean, the point of the comprehensive plan is that overarching vision. And so if we define a particular neighborhood that's in contrast to that, then it shouldn't be approved. I mean, we shouldn't define it that way.
Right. Exactly. Because I think that, again, it's saying that the comprehensive plan is setting the standard. You know, this is what we're really trying to achieve. And if you're inconsistent with this, it should be providing direction for everybody. And to some degree, when you go out to the neighbors, you say, okay, here's what we're looking for. What do you see as your role in trying to accomplish this for citywide? And what do you need specifically, for that as well? So
It is confusing. I mean, now that I look at it, because, yeah, the whole idea is it's one comprehensive plan and there's elements of it. Different levels of detail, and I'm not sure what specialty citywide plans is.
the thought was parks plans, bicycle and pedestrian plans, that kind of stuff is what the thought was.
And that needs to be better
But those are not
explained.
part of the comprehensive plan, so.
They can't, yeah, some are, some are not. It's true. In our case, the bicycle plan is not, you're right, and the open space plan is not. We might do something else that would be citywide, if a wayfinding system or something that may be consistent with what we're trying to achieve for land use, yeah.
So I think,
Okay.
To that, I do think a pyramid works better than an arrow.
Okay, good.
And then I think we just have to really be very clear.
And I'll look at Golden's again and just see
Yeah.
if there's something that would work for us too. So
Yeah,
we're a
maybe
little
there's
bit
some
more
things in
complex
there.
because we've
Maybe
got-
that's not the right graphic, but maybe there are some pieces in there that we're
Right.
missing.
Because we have the special districts, we have all the, it's interesting. If it could work for us, it'd be great.
Two, I think, one, we need to talk about the comprehensive plan, and then the implementation tools and all those other things.
Yeah,
I think
that
that's
might
what
be.
Golden is doing. They implement it through their budget, their zoning code, their subdivision code, and so on. So somehow we'll try and show that as two different concepts.
And I think that helps address the questions that we had around what tools, what do you, so I think one is about plans and guidelines, and then others are like the tools that we have. So to give that distinction, and also gives us definition that is needed based on comments we've heard.
What are guidelines code?
But they're separate. It just meant that the comprehensive plan leads to the code. You use the code to help implement the comprehensive plan as well as any kind of design guidelines that you have.
But
So either
isn't-
regulations or guidelines.
So the code is the zoning ordinance.
Right, yeah.
And we need to say that.
Okay. And there may be others as well, so.
Right. I think it's very confusing, and I even know the lingo. I don't know what design guideline codes are, because I thought development and zoning review was the ordinance, the
okay.
zoning ordinance.
Ah, okay, yeah, that's not.
Because I see it as documents that get more specific or get more
Well, that's
legal
why I think Glenn was
binding.
saying it may be two different graphics, and I think other people are saying as well. So maybe
You're talking
it's
about
not-
process. I'm talking about the foundation, and then you get more specific with another document. You get to the zoning code, and then you get subdivision regulations, and finally enforcement.
Before we move on, can I just go back to the map really quick? I didn't catch if we decided to zoom in on this map or keep it the same size, but I'd like, rather than all these little tiny roads, if possible, I'd like to see more of the linkages.
Okay.
You know, like the light rail. I mean, you've got DIA here, but it's not even mentioned, or it's not even labeled. It'll be, if we can fit light rail on there, it'd be nice to see the.
We don't need Thornton in the map.
Certainly do.
That's true, too.
Blow it up
yes.
a hair and
But we have other maps that have neighborhood corridors.
Yeah, there are other maps in there. I
Streets.
think this is giving us a reference of where it is in the metro area.
Yeah.
If there is a map without all the little streets in there, just the major highways and intersections.
Yeah, yeah. Just
Makes
kind
it
of
less
how
busy.
the metro area connects to Littleton. I mean, we don't need, all those
I-25,
extra roads in
I-70,
Thornton or
470,
Okay,
E470.
Yeah.
And then, putting the airport out there might be a good idea if you can label the DIA. That gives a indication for some people.
Reference, yeah. Good.
Okay. 1.4,
Hold on one sec.
No going back.
Kind of tying 1.3 and 1.7 together, and I don't know if it should be in here, but I'm going to state it. Should there be a project plan of when we're going to get to anything? And I'm not talking about all the way down to the individual work unit. I'm just talking about here's today is 2013. We may or may not approve a comprehensive plan moving forward. Let's assume it moves forward. That means in 2014 and 15 we're going to do neighborhood plans. That means in 2014 and 15 there's going to be zoning and code review. Should there be some sort of Gantt chart that displays that?
We had that kind of discussion for the downtown neighborhood plan, and we actually put dates in initially, and then we went back and said maybe smarter to put in priorities in terms of as we're evaluating these things. For example, we didn't know necessarily that there was going to be funding available next year and the following year to do the stationary plans. So that has bumped those two up fairly dramatically in terms of where we are. We may have been doing something else next year instead of that. But because there's such sufficient funding.
What if we don't date bind it, but just sequence?
Or just priorities?
In a graphic, put a sequence of here's kind of how we see it moving forward, or here is the plan to move forward.
You could kind of have a Gantt chart without dates.
Without dates, yeah, don't worry. If that's going to screw us up, but yet the sequence will be the same.
Yeah, I think that's.
we'll have a pretty long discussion as to what we feel is most important to least important, what needs to be done now, what can wait. That'll take some time. We could spend an hour on, we could spend 2 hours on that.
But I do think the value of that is,
Valuable.
so it's definitely valuable because, again, that were some of the questions. When are these things going to happen? So we haven't talked about it. We just said we're going to do it, or, But there are some key things that we do know that's happening next year, or at least somewhat in the near future. And I think those are some of the bigger ones. And so I think just putting out what we do know, and maybe and then sequentially, each neighborhood will go after that, even if we don't have it fully prioritized. It's just when's that next step happening? So we know this corridor study is taking place next, and then this neighborhood plan is happening next, and then sequentially after that, we'll go through the rest of the neighborhood plans, or et cetera. So I think if we just give a view of what those steps or the next area that will be addressed, gives them
Well, it's a good idea. It's just going to take a little time
for us to.
and discussion.
It will, because I don't know if we even agreed. I've heard different things in terms of how we approach the neighborhoods. I think Glenn and I think that we could probably do a lot of the neighborhoods almost collectively. They're so stable and there's so few issues, and the plans we have are so accurate, I think, in terms of realizing that stability, that if we identify newer issues, what's current issues, what do we project as an issue, and see where those apply, I don't know there's a full-blown neighborhood plan necessary for each of those neighborhoods in the city, or that we have the right boundaries even for the neighborhoods at this point. So in some ways we could group those, or we may want to do them individually. So I'm with you. I don't know that we've got enough sense of where we're heading next. I think we can do a sequence in terms of priorities, in terms of where the issues are. I think what you've identified are the activity areas and activity corridors.
It seems like the corridors are almost more priority because there needs to be some definition around development or zoning even,
Exactly. And that's where your questions are going to be, where the issues are going to be for the planning board and city council, where the more direction you can have from the plans, the better. For helping you make those decisions, it will be the corridors and the activity areas. I agree. So.
But if I could put myself in the shoes of a neighbor in a neighborhood in a rub area where the neighborhood's rubbing against an activity area, that neighborhood plan and redoing of that plan is very important to them. This is where I live. This is where my money is. So to put myself in their shoes, I'd say, geez, I want that done right away, and then hit up the big areas later on.
I'm wondering if I think we think of those edges as really important, as that's a big part of the corridor.
I'm just saying what the opposite viewpoint could be.
Absolutely, you bet. No, I agree with you.
And we need discussion on that
and
if we're going to prioritize.
We can provide enough participation in that process and make it important enough that the neighborhoods are comfortable that when we're doing the corridors, we're also doing that edge.
Yeah, because they shouldn't be in conflict ever, the
Right.
two plans.
Right.
So if you
Right.
do the corridor study, it shouldn't ever conflict with something that you're going to put into that neighborhood plan. And they really should be done almost simultaneously. But then you're going to do all of the edges.
And that's not a bad idea. If we're going to do an activity area that's at Santa Fe and Mineral, we should be doing the neighborhood plan and
The south
alongside
neighborhood.
it.
And
Right.
do we divide the south neighborhood into three areas instead of just the one? Because that south neighborhood is huge right now. It has a lot of different moving parts.
If I remember the argument about this when we were doing the downtown plan, and I'm kind of struggling with this right now, I think it's, again, a very important tool that we need to look at and prioritize and say, how are we going to really execute on all of these steps, but is it part of the comprehensive document? It's a working document that we use to guide ourselves, to guide the city, but is it part of the comp plan? Because if we now are saying this roadmap or this Gantt chart needs to be part of the comp plan, as you're saying, Mark, we have to open it up for discussion. Is the prioritization that we choose, the right prioritization? How would the public respond? So I don't know that it belongs in the comp plan, but I think we're saying we just need it, and it should be almost a standalone document that just helps us to operate.
We could spend the whole evening on it. It's a good discussion.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think all this chart does is it identifies all the areas that will be considered as part of the small area plans, neighborhood plans, whatever you want to call them. That way it's clearly stated that all these are within the comprehensive plan.
And while we're on that, we do need, we left off the Trailmark neighborhood, and I apologize to Trailmark, because it's one that actually needs to be created. We've actually taken it out of the neighborhood plan document at this point because it was not a neighborhood plan, it was a development plan, so we need to add it back in as a plan that needs to be created. So it'll show up in the next draft of.
It was not adopted as a part of the comprehensive plan?
Adopted as a neighborhood plan, yeah.
Okay, well, yeah, whether right or wrong, it probably ought to be in there then.
Yeah.
What's the southwest neighborhood?
Southwest does not have a plan. And let me find a map for you.
I was thinking that was what you were saying Trailmark was.
No, it's actually a separate, I think
Grove,
Trailmark's a
I see-
separate neighborhood, yeah.
Because I see South Santa Fe corridor, but I didn't see a south on that map on page 19 or 110, I guess.
And where is it on that map?
This is the south neighborhood, southwest neighborhood. I've got the cursor on, if you can see it there. So it's
Yeah.
far southwest. And then Trailmark is down here to the left. This is Trailmark. And we have other areas that were not included in the plan when it was done, either because they weren't annexed into the city at that point, or when we adopted the downtown plan, for example, we actually did change a few of the boundaries as part of that adoption. So the neighborhoods that were previously in the downtown, the central areas we called at that point, are no longer in that. They're now in the adjoining neighborhoods.
But if we call out the southwest neighborhood, we should at least have a label on here that identifies.
It does.
Where?
On the map?
It says South Santa Fe Corridor.
Hey,
Oh, it does. Okay, thank you.
It's out somewhere else, though. Let's see, southwest.
I want to go back to this project plan idea. I think there should be some graphic, at least, that identifies the flow of events that does exist within this document, but then the detail is done as a project plan to move forward. And even if it is citywide planning, neighborhood corridor activity planning, zoning, code review, just showing the progression of big rocks that are ahead of us.
Won't the pyramid potentially, and whatever the tools may look like, do that for us maybe?
Sounds very similar.
What I'm calling the pyramid is what you can now have as the arrow. So once we kind of lay that out, won't that essentially
Let's see.
show that?
I'm open
Or
to that.
hopefully may.
It's the talent of the graphic designer.
The other option is, instead of document location, which I think doesn't really have a lot of value, you could put, a range of time, 2013 to 2014,
Instead of what?
to give it a sense of projected time when it will be done.
Oh, I think that's dangerous.
I think that's dangerous.
Yeah, that's where we ended up amending that in the downtown plan.
Okay.
And what we ended up with is high, low, medium priority, and
Okay.
kind of left it at that.
You could do priority, high, low, medium on there if you wanted to give it some
Yeah.
sense of what's urgent.
Right. I mean, certain things happen and they may go out of order. For instance, we do have federal funding to help us do some corridor plans, and that's going to have a very specific time frame on it. So we want to take advantage of that. But that can change also. We heard the other day that with the issues in the federal government, that funding probably won't get to us till May at the earliest, and maybe longer. So that kind of delays what we originally thought for the Mineral Station and Santa Fe corridor.
I come back
Today,
to,
there's a few balls up in the air.
There's just a lot of other opportunities that come along. We don't know what's going to change in terms of ownership. We don't know what's going to change in terms of major developments. So it's kind of nice to have that flexibility to respond and go back and reevaluate as part of your work program. I'm sorry, Ladon. Yeah. Were you saying something? Okay.
I think we should stay clear of prioritization. So we definitely should stay clear of timing. And even prioritization, we have already said these transformative areas, and I'm trying to kind of go back to it, we've already identified what is important. So if funding becomes available or when the opportunity arises, I feel the document already alludes to, and maybe more than alludes, it states here's where our focus areas are. So I don't know that we have to go neighborhood by neighborhood. I wouldn't recommend it.
Okay, well, Dennis, based upon what you think you heard, give us what you interpret what you
Take it out.
Okay.
Get the whole thing out.
Okay, moving on, 1.4. If we're going to have charts, is there anywhere that there's any kind of explanation as to what their purpose is?
There is text on page 1.3, which explains what the different figures are.
Yeah, you do reference the chart.
Yes,
Okay.
The one public comment was the upper chart, figure B, starts at 2 rather than 0, which accentuates the trend too much. It needs to start at 0, and it won't be as steep of decline in household size as it shows.
That's a good idea.
Isn't that just a matter of scale?
Yeah.
It is, but it sends a different
This
message.
is their standard ruse that
Yeah.
people use when they're doing charts. They'll start at, instead of $0, they'll start at $30 million, and a steep decline in the Dow Jones. It's preposterous.
Okay. 1.5.
Should there be a time identifier up front of when Inspire Littleton was? You have June 2013 on the other side, but I think it should be in 2012 and 13, Inspire Littleton did this.
Sure.
Sure.
And then a comment that somebody else already had. The last sentence in the area is time-bound. After posting the plan online for comments, the additional comments, oh, no, wrong comment, sorry. Something else.
Although what I caught on this one was the last sentence reads, after posting the plan online for comments and holding public hearings, the additional comments and ideas heard online and at those hearings will be discussed and reflected in the adopted plan.
That was it.
So this should be written like it's already, that process has happened, or?
Right. Good. Thank you. And then to that same point, add your ideas here is the largest thing on there. And it kind of makes it says, hey, here's a planning process. This is what Littleton does. But if you don't like what we said, add your ideas here and throw it out. So I'd just say minimize that a little bit and bring that down, because it kind of looks like we made a plan, but it's a sort of not really, you know.
You want to Photoshop it?
Just
Make it look
just
prettier.
get rid of that. And I think you get the point.
Okay, 1.6.
Ooh, moving on.
1.7 we talked about.
1.7, I personally think that the economic plan, the HPB plan, the downtown plan, any plan that exists should be identified here. And to the point of binding all of these documents together, I think we should list what all the documents referenced as of this November 2013 are.
At this point, these are all the documents that I think we would consider as part of the comprehensive plan. Some cities actually would adopt the economic plan as part of the comprehensive plan, but I don't know if there's any thought, Glenn, about doing that for Littleton. That's a no.
Why not?
Well, we talked about this a little bit, and I think it's kind of the implementation policy. And I think what you'll find is if you drop the economic plan, even though we address the economy in here, it's going to overweight everything else, I think. It's going to take it out of balance. And it sounds great now, but there are situations where you're going to want to lean into other things like neighborhood protection versus economic development plan.
And we don't control that plan.
Right. Well, if it was part of the comprehensive plan, you would. But it's very action-oriented. I just don't see it fitting into this framework.
That's true with some of the other things. The bicycle and pedestrian plan is really a work program for public works. So it was not adopted either as part of the comprehensive plan. So there are others out there that.
That's a good way to put it. It really is a work plan for staff, council.
I see a potential issue with having not gone through those documents and some level of detail to compare them to what we're doing here. We would be throwing that together, and there might be some immediate conflicts as well as out of balance direction in one plan versus another.
So what's the point of it? If we can't use it as a comprehensive plan, meaning this is what we want the vision of the city to be, this is what we're trying to implement in the city,
Well,
to me they're intimately linked. Anything that the city does, by definition, a comprehensive plan should be the whole picture of what's trying to happen.
Well, where do you stop? I mean, do you end up having police records of 10 years down the road? Where do you stop? I guess is I don't think the comprehensive plan needs. Those things should not be a part of the comprehensive plan. We're not economic experts. This is the comprehensive plan
And there are
for
some
land use
comprehensive plans
planning
that
for the city.
include all those things.
I'm sorry?
Right? There are some cities that include all those. They actually get into very specific housing recommendations and social services recommendations and get into everything. Everything's open.
Well, Littleton,
but
our old plans haven't included
have not
that.
exactly. And I think there's the problem when you do that is it gets so far beyond your reach. Particularly as what the planning board's authority is or the staff's authority is, it gets very confusing, I think. I think we still are setting an overall vision for the city. And so economic development and bicycle and sidewalk plan, all it's going to be It's all looking at the comprehensive plan that you're doing, even though it's not part of the comprehensive
To me, it's not an all-encompassing Bible. The comprehensive plan is not that.
And we reference as a policy or guideline to use tools of economic development, which could reference economic development plans or whatever tools that we have. So this gives guidance to go look at those tools.
It says on 212, implement the city's economic plan, review and revise as necessary in order to remain current.
Good enough.
Right.
I personally think there should be one place that all documents that are used for consideration within the city are located as a card catalog.
I have no problem with a reference to data and or reports and documents that are resources that can be cited for economic development or bike plans or open space corridors and
Perhaps in the appendix?
I think cities, council's directive was to update the current plan. That was their directive many times that we met with them. Update the current plan. Don't rewrite an entire new plan and change the direction of that comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan, as I see it, and I think what we've heard over and over, is a land use plan, not a this is what the city's going to do. That's in, I think, a different document altogether.
I think if we simply state that these plans exist, then it does not create a potential where somebody says, well, nobody ever told me about that one.
Well, it could be an appendix at the end of this list, one page of listing all the goodies.
There's no problem referencing
Other existing plans in Littleton.
Right.
And again, I think we did that for, if I remember correctly, the downtown neighborhood plan. We had like a list of reference documents or.
Yeah. Almost a bibliography or some sort of.
Yeah. We've used this as a resource kind of a thing. Here it is at the
Does
end.
everybody agree with that?
To this whole point about this being a land use plan and how to use this, I keep looking at this implementation section. You know, I've read all the way back through this whole section, and the only thing I can see in here that talks about using this document for, you know, our recent challenges and how we've been using this document is implementation will come through the plan's role as a framework for development-related decisions and capital improvements, and that's pretty much it. And, you know, perhaps we might want to say that, you know, it serves as the document in the evaluation of land use applications submitted by property owners, and that before we approve land use applications, you got to find that the proposal's in conformance with this plan, you know, to make it more specific to that end, if it is a land use.
Well, I think it says very clearly, page 1.1, purpose. It offers a framework for decisions that affect private and public development. It leads and is the mission statement for the city's land use related regulatory tools and programs, including zoning and capital improvement programs. I think it's very specific right there in the first paragraph.
I think we can show all the relationships perhaps in a simple graph to show they're all out there, and it's other ways of implementing the comprehensive plan. What I'm concerned about is that, are you going to use the economic development plan in making a zoning recommendation? And you don't want that situation, because it's really not designed for that. It's designed for, here's the tools staff can use once you have your zoning to help implement the economic goals of the city.
Yes, the B2 section of the zoning doesn't call out economic opportunity. It's a dry document that lists heights, setbacks, maximum lot coverage, et cetera, et cetera. That's the zoning document.
Capital improvement plan's another example. You know, here's where the city's going to put its money as far as putting improvements in. You wouldn't want to roll that into here. You'd want to use your capital improvement plan to help implement some of the goals and priorities of your comprehensive plan. I know they all kind of become smush after a while. It's planning to plan a plan for a plan.
Yeah. So we're going to reference other sources at the disposal.
So I think the things we would include there, so anything that we're making a statement to within the plan, we should put as a reference document. So we do talk about the economic plan. Again, Metro Vision 2013 is another one that came up. So those would be examples of what we put in the reference. It's not everything that potentially is out there, but anything that we talk about within here. I don't remember if we talk about the bicycle plan. I'm sure we do. So that would be another one. So just again, how do we manage what's in that reference library? I think it's just coming back to the content that's in there. Sorry, I'm going to go back, guys. Sorry. So since LaDonna brought up implementation again, I'm seeing in the revised version, I'm looking at this track document, and I just noticed that we say this plan, the comprehensive plan's vision extends over the 20-year horizon. Why are we putting a time frame there of 20 years? Why not 22? Why not 18? Why not 30? I don't think to put it.
Where are you? I got the
I'm
page.
just looking at this,
Up top?
20-year horizon. I don't know where that came from.
She's reading the mark tracking.
Oh, it's an
That was
updated,
suggested, right?
updated
Oh.
copy here.
Yeah.
Vision extends over the 20-year horizon.
I don't agree with putting a time frame around it. Long-term, something like that is fine, but, or a vision that extends over time.
Everybody in agreement with that?
Yeah, I don't think there's a need to put a time on it. Just the reference to,
Longevity of it,
ongoing.
yeah.
I think you can cut out vision extends over the 20-year horizon and just go right to the comprehensive plan strategic. The strategic implementation of the comprehensive plan will occur over time. And actually, in reading that sentence, you said the word comprehensive plan twice in it. To drop the time and clean up the sentence.
I didn't have a problem with the original statement that said the comprehensive plan will be implemented over time. So I don't know the context of why this additional change was made.
Yeah, these were, again, just edits that were suggested by board members.
Okay. Well, Donna, was that you again?
I like the word strategically.
I'm not going to claim that one either.
I didn't submit track changes.
On 3 pages.
so do we make a decision on that?
I'll let council vote.
I think, so, yes, I understood one.
Take out 20 and Dennis will wordsmith.
Yeah, I heard
No more going back.
Karina said she liked, or somebody said that they liked the original,
I did.
and then Dave said he liked strategic.
Yeah, that's in the original.
Okay. Sounds like the original's fine.
Where are we?
Yeah, leave it the way it is.
Where are we?
Section
1.7. We were at 1.7.
What are we doing?
1.
with that
We
sentence?
already talked about 1.7,
Going back.
1.8.
Okay.
1.8 is part of
Clean it up.
related plans? Is that, or what is this? This talks about figures E? Oh, it talks about the different figures. But what, is it under related plans?
Yes, it is. It's under related plans.
So it's a continuing,
Correct.
ongoing discussion.
On the, are we on 1.9 or are we on all
1.8.
these plans?
1.8,
Oh, sorry.
Depends on which, if you're on here or on there.
Okay.
They're different.
Oh, God.
1.7.
hearing no comments, 1.9.
All right. Figure E, neighborhood corridors and activity area maps. Any comments on that? We already, you captured the one about the southwest neighborhood, Dennis, that was missing.
Yes, sure did. Thank you.
I have a couple comments on the map.
Oh, good. Okay.
already pointed out, Southwest neighborhood needs to be identified. The corridor plans are not very clear. The labels like South Santa Fe corridor should have a line pointing to the blob.
Okay, good.
And it just seems like Santa Fe is viewed as one word. It shouldn't be hyphenated or broke. Santa Fe should be on the same line.
Okay.
And I think there's same South Broadway corridor that just put a leader line into the blob, just like there is one already at Littleton Boulevard corridor. Then it seems like there's going to be some discussion yet to come where you have a neighborhood plan, a corridor plan, and an activity plan all happening in the same place. And we have a lot of overlap, of course. And so I think we're just going to have to flush that out at the time.
Right. And I think the same is true with the boundaries. The boundaries we put in, we tried to make them graphically look, pretty fuzzy, just because we don't know what the definition is going to be. So.
I almost wonder if the corridor blobs shouldn't have a solid or screened color in them, because it's kind of hard to follow those blue lines as to where they stop and start. Like Littleton corridor and the Broadway corridor could be one blob if you didn't know any better.
You bet.
So just some sort of delineation as to where they are.
Like 3 different colors, is that what you're thinking?
Either, well, one color, but we need to figure, clearly graphically depict where Broadway ends and Littleton picks up.
Well, at the intersect, you're going to take the color and turn the corner and head west. So.
Yeah, maybe there needs to be a break right there to the west of where it kind of bulges out around
or just
King Supers.
have different colors, and then the label is the same color as the
just make
line.
it clear, yeah.
Different shades of blue.
And then these little areas that are hatched on the east side of the boundaries that are not in a neighborhood plan, it says citywide area plan. Does that mean if you don't have a neighborhood plan, your only guidance is the citywide plan?
Citywide plan, right.
Oh, so
I think eventually everything should be within some neighborhood.
Oh, yeah, it will be. And the thought was that we weren't making any changes to those boundaries until we actually got into a public process.
Well,
so
then
we actually talked about, just making the natural leap in terms of where they would go. And
There should be a bullet under a citywide plan that says to be identified in some neighborhood or, future, some indication that it will be in a neighborhood plan. We just haven't decided yet. Future neighborhood extension or something.
good point.
Very good.
That's all I had.
On that same idea, then, this map will be updated as those new neighborhood plans are there, and maybe we should just put that caveat, probably along all of them.
And you're going to change South Santa Fe corridor to Southwest neighborhood?
Yeah.
Southwest, sure will, because it's not south.
Yeah, I think that's actually identifying the corridor. I just don't think there's a definition.
Well, there's the corridor is identified north of there too. There's another label that says South Santa Fe.
A picky question. Maps like this, somebody said you could, change them as required. Does that require approval from the planning board and council, or do you just change them?
Well, it would require approval by planning board and council, if you were changing boundaries, because we have plans attached to them. Yeah,
Okay.
so, yeah.
I mean, it'd be pretty much cut and dry, but it requires action.
Yeah, sure does.
Okay. Oh, boy.
Okay. Figures F and G, are there any comments?
Yes. We did have one comment from Carrie. She said that on the land use map, we're actually showing the Denver Water Board property on the north side of Bowles to the almost to the western city limits there as vacant. It's that brown piece. We should be showing that as agricultural. She said they actually do grow hay, so it actually does have an agricultural use on it at this point. They haven't
Do
leased
that.
that out.
Should you do the marathon too?
That was my comment.
Well, Marathon doesn't have an agricultural use because it doesn't have agricultural zoning.
But it's
Not
vacant
agriculture,
now,
whatever
it's-
it is today, whatever it was
It's
just approved
vacant.
to be.
It's
It's
going to
absolutely
be,
vacant.
but it was just approved to be residential and
Well,
retail.
that's the zoning map.
Right, but yeah, it's the zoning rather than the use. Yeah, I know. It gets very bizarre in terms of how
Current
you
use.
define these.
Yeah.
And knowing we have to come back and change some of these things pretty quickly. 'Cause
Yeah,
it-
no, I
it's
just mean
developed.
since, I guess my thought was since we're moving forward here and this is going to be developed shortly, the land use is going to change.
It's a good question.
If
I
they break
guess
ground in a week,
Our
we'll-
experience has been that you never believe it's going to happen until it's
Right.
Oh, it
actually
does, yeah.
open. So, yeah.
But when does a land use get designated and how?
So,
When did it?
How does land use get designated once there's a use to the land?
Right, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so,
And city staff determines that?
I'm sorry?
City staff would determine what they think that land use is for
And
that
it's a little
particular
bizarre
property?
because like we would think, well, if the Denver Water Board property and Enser are both agricultural, why isn't
There's no corn growing.
the Marathon property? Well, Marathon came in and asked if they could possibly graze a couple of cattle, so we'd change it back to agricultural. And they don't have the zoning. Zoning doesn't allow them to have any agricultural use on there at all. So the answer is no, it's vacant. There's just no use on
Okay,
there at
let's
all
move
right now.
forward.
How many cows can you have?
Finally, we hit the
Wow.
No, I have a comment on I have a question on figure G.
Okay. Sorry, yeah, we can't go back.
So I think, sorry, this is where Marathon comes in, I think. So right now, Marathon is zoned as commercial,
No, that's not right.
It's CD.
Half of it's residential.
right? So when we have like PDs that then mixes things up, how do PDs get represented here? They all have like,
Whether it's PDR, PDC is kind of what we did.
okay.
So and that one was supposed to be split and it hasn't been, so I'm sorry about that. We did catch that earlier and it didn't get through, I apologize.
I think on figure G, the open space there doesn't tie to the open space on figure F. There's a lot more of it in F. Is the Highline Canal a designated park and open space? It's not.
Possible, it's just so small in most cases, it probably wouldn't show up. So, whereas you see Lee Gulch, for example, you do see the open space there, but it's a little wider than most of the land along the canal would be. And the reason they're so different in terms of open space between F and G is that a lot of the land that we think of as open space doesn't have open space zoning on it. It has something else on it. So it has agricultural use or it has some kind of commercial use. It just depends. In order to have the tennis course and the golf course, for example, you can't do that as open space necessarily. So it has a different zone district on it.
Well, I would support LaDonna's question about why can't we just put a green ribbon along that Highline corridor because it's a vital open space thread.
That's true.
It may be faint, but it's there.
But to get it, yeah, but that's good.
I mean, I know you can zoom in on these things and just click it, and it's solid.
Along those lines, is the river corridor, is that ag? The South Platte River corridor?
In terms of use, it really varies. A lot of it's open space. And then
Because
part-
it looks like it's all ag here, except for that little ribbon.
Oh, on the zoning or on the?
On the zoning.
On it, it's ag.
It's a combination. A lot of it's agricultural. Yeah.
Okay.
They farming down by the river?
And there's some commercial, like the
Grows
golf
grass
course
down
is
I don't
commercial.
see any
Right,
farming
right.
going
Yeah.
down there.
So,
Okay.
They're still growing
yeah,
grass?
it does
in there?
vary a lot.
Didn't you see the trees
A lot of
growing
it's
down
left
there?
over from when there were
We're gonna have some
the gravel
hops
pits
growing
there. So
soon.
we have
Oh,
more
yeah,
commercial use
yeah.
for that. So
There's
it hasn't been
agriculture around
resolved.
McMullen Reservoir?
Ideally, we'd get all the open space zoned open space.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
That was our argument on land use, because even though it says it's agriculture, there's nothing growing there.
It just means you're a bad farmer.
Are we on 2-1?
Yeah. Okay, 2-1. Andy, 2 comments. was enough.
No, the word recognize, last bullet, the word recognize, I'm not crazy about it. Recognize, hey, look, there it is. I don't think that does anything. So I think that should be, recognize should be a word we should find a different synonym for.
Value the importance of.
Engage its human and natural resources, work with.
Where are we?
Last
The
bullet.
last
I
bullet
got it.
of the vision.
Under Littleton will.
So that's comment one, is I don't like the word recognize. Two, the comment was made the other day, and I don't know how to solve it. Direct change, under managed change, first bullet, direct change to achieve the city's vision. It was made the other day that was very vague, and I wrote city leaders' vision, city agreed upon vision.
Vision, and then, yeah.
I wrote in Littleton citizens'
Or
vision.
the vision in this plan. Because this is actually, you've gone beyond the vision. You have the vision statement already. So you've actually established your vision statement. Yeah. So that's what the
vision's right
transformative
there.
perspective is supposed to be doing in terms of land use. Yeah.
It almost reads as not the same.
Okay.
So just
Well, it's the vision of this plan, right?
to achieve this plan. Direct change to achieve.
Well, the beauty of the vision statement is it's broad enough that it gives you an awful lot of flexibility in interpretation. If you don't have specific direction in here from something, if a project comes up, you go back to the vision statement. And so I think there's an advantage to saying, I guess you could say of this plan, so you get all the details in it. That may be even more beneficial than vision, but it's kind of a trade-off. Any other thoughts?
Then the other thought on this page, the word sustainable is there twice. I think I'm okay with it. Sustainable economy and strive for sustainability. And then here it is again. And then we define, in both change and sustainability, we define managed change with direct change. We define strive for sustainability with apply the economic, social sustainability. So we define our own word with the same word.
Yeah, there was a question too on Monday about sustainability. What does it mean?
We do, I believe, have a definition for. I
Yeah,
think we
it's
ended
in
up
the
with one.
definitions.
Yeah.
Is it important to say it 3 times?
It needs to be a synonym there.
This was a section we talked about a lot, and we changed a lot, and it's. I'm still not a big fan of it, but I don't know how much time do we want to, or how do we? What's our issue with this? Is it a word, or is it not saying anything, or we question what it's saying?
I don't think it says anything.
Which one? Strive for sustainability?
Manage change, direct change. What's the difference between managing and directing? Strive for sustainability is simply defining the same 3 words that are presented in the vision last sentence.
So you get rid of change, switch that over to something else, get rid of sustainability in the second one. We don't mention bar in the third one, luckily, but.
So are we trying to? So I think so for the managed change, are we?
At the bar.
Are we? Do we just need to be more specific? So direct change says the same thing as managed change. I agree with Andy on that. So it's what is it that we're trying to say there?
Controlled
Change
and
what?
directed.
Or no, it's not about changing what is this change? Is it?
I think the
Control
thought
and
was it's fairly
direct.
broad in terms of the city is going to go through an evolution. The city is going to evolve over time. The city is going to see a different demographic. It's going to see a different land use pattern. It's going to see a different open space pattern. It's going to see a lot of things that are different than what we see today. And this is just saying that the city wants to be in charge of how that happens. So each of those decisions that lead to those things, to the extent possible, the city wants to be involved with. that citizenry wants to be involved with.
I think the
You could say
problem,
guide and direct is a way to say that you're involved in the process. Guide and direct change.
So that way we're part of it as opposed to reacting to it. Is that what
I
you're
agree with Andy that we're basically saying the same thing. We have a title over a bullet, one bullet. And so it's almost as if we don't even need the titles or we don't even need the bullets.
Right.
We just have one line for each,
Yeah.
meaning
bolster the
manage
titles.
change to achieve the city's vision, period.
Yeah.
Strive for sustainability by applying goals of economic, environmental,
works.
and social decisions or whatever. Raise the bar to increase the quality of community and economic development. Those are 3 bullets.
Yep. Yep.
It just, we're
The
repeating
only,
ourselves.
I
like
think
you
the
said.
thought was that we were looking for the marketing phrases, that were memorable. So if they're still memorable, even with 10 words instead of 3, I think it all
We got
achieves what we're trying to
2.2,
achieve.
unless there's any other.
Maybe you could just highlight that first
Yeah,
part and then
certainly do that.
make the other
Good.
bold.
I do have, I'm just going to have a comment. I still struggle with that word human element in that last bullet that Andrew brought up. Recognize the importance of its human and natural resource. Not that I have a recommendation of what to change it to, and I know why it's in there. I remember why it's in there. Does anybody else have an issue with that word, or just let it go?
Which word are you looking at?
Human. Recognize the importance of its human and natural resources.
What are you suggesting?
I don't.
Our people have talent.
Human capital, labor.
Recognize the importance of our people. It means we got
Citizen.
smart
It's about
enough
citizen
people.
involvement
Use the word
Residents?
people.
People.
Citizens?
of its citizens. Maybe I feel
Yeah,
better with that.
citizens are people, that's good.
Yeah, citizens works.
Citizens
Thanks.
are people too.
Humans, robots, okay.
As the importance of its citizens and natural
A
resources?
citizen resource, yeah. And
Citizen involvement. The intent was about citizen involvement.
So are we changing the bullets on the right?
No, recognize is changing.
Here?
What was
Changing
recognize changing, Dennis, to? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Did you-
Do we have it?
Yeah, right.
There's no word for recognize.
What was the other
Do we
word
have
for
a synonym?
recognize?
utilize.
Value or engage, we were kind of heading in that direction. a
I'd say
little bit.
value. I like value.
Okay.
Value?
Value the importance of its.
2.2,
Well, I've just got one quickie on 2.1. Value, livability, diversity, and progress. Livability is in the definition. I'd like to see diversity defined in the definition. That came up Monday.
yeah.
Where are you, Mark? I'm sorry.
That's the 4th bullet under Littleton will.
Okay, good.
The diversity is.
Economic diversity, racial, whatever, religious, whatever. Define it.
Diversity is a word that is peppered through the document too, though.
Yeah, it is.
We have to make sure that we're consistent with all those.
So, yeah, I guess come up with the dry definition from Webster or whatever.
Right, okay, good. I'll use Webster.
Shall we reference Webster in our reference?
Oh, God. There's another 3 pages coming up.
Can I throw something out for that second point? Strive for sustainability, changing it to strive for economic, environmental, and social sustainability.
Yes.
And you can have the
Sure.
Yep.
in-city decisions or leave it out, I don't know.
Yep.
Good.
Okay. 2.2. There was a comment about using a sketch versus the real thing.
Same comment.
I like this.
It's different. Why not?
Yeah, I like the sketch.
That's the point. I think the sketch looks nicer than the reality.
Yeah, it does.
Well, we want it to look nice, though, right?
Well, the sketch is looking in the past versus,
And it
Not
does.
necessarily. I mean, there are artists who draw urban landscape.
This is the vision of what Littleton Station should feel and
Yeah,
look
there you
like, and we're not there yet.
So, do the real photo of it?
I'll take a picture of it.
So I have an overall comment on instead of going picture by picture. So, I think it's the same. And a picture paints 1,000 words. So if you're reading the words, you're looking for the picture to try to convey those words visually. And I think there just has to be a little bit more discipline about what pictures we're choosing to, regardless of whether it's a Littleton picture or another picture, of what picture we're choosing to put here to talk about being vibrant and evolving. and I don't know that it's done effectively throughout the document.
The only one that seems to do that for me actually is the courthouse one. It is the parade,
It almost looks like the courthouse has been photoshopped into this picture, though. And it's got those two, the traffic lights, looks like pillars or something holding it up.
And I agree with you, Dennis. Like that one looks like a vibrant community. So what does an evolving community might look like? And maybe that's what the rendering should be, but.
Or a real photograph of a recently built building is a evolving community.
Yeah.
But maybe that one with the bike doesn't really show much.
we need more photos with more people in them, and it's hard to find photos that have people in them.
Yeah.
Photographers tend to want to eliminate
But I
people when
think
they take the
that
photograph.
was the point that David was making, is sometimes we don't, I think it was David, somewhere I saw a comment that maybe we don't have a picture now of Littleton because that's the problem. We don't have it now. It's something we want to be, so that's where you put an alternative in.
This particular rendering, the artist's conception, I like better than the actual. In that corner, if you go to that corner today, you're probably going to get 2 or 3 or 4 cars involved in there and no people walking on the street. And it's a conception. It's an idea. And I like that better than the actual property.
How many like the
If you're going to use that property, there may be another.
Likes the rendering.
How many like the Okay, rendering wins.
I just don't like that the reality isn't the case.
And I like
you know?
there's nobody jogging in it.
So I think the rendering of what it should be, maybe it's, don't choose Littleton Station, choose one of maybe the more recent renderings that hasn't come to life yet.
Nevada Place
Yeah.
is occasionally you can get picture of the front of Nevada Place without cars all lined up on that street. And that's a nice project.
Or
on
even the
street.
rendering of the Phase 2 of Nevada Place or something. That, again, it's not built yet, so you can't judge it, but it's what
Yeah,
what
right,
we
you can't
wanted.
judge this with the reality.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fine. That was, if you didn't put the what it was under it, I'd be like, yeah, that's exactly what, might look like.
This applies to all of the goals. All of them are begin with a bullet, foster the evolving community, bullet, capitalize, bullet, enhance. We're only saying 1 point, so I think you can skip the
I'm not
bullet.
sure you need to bullet it.
You're not bulleting anything. A bullet requires a second bullet in order to work.
Right.
So on all of the goal pages, 2.2, 2.4, 2.6, just drop the bullet.
Okay, just want to check in with everybody. It's after 9. How's everybody doing on time? And
Let's do it.
Let's keep going.
everybody, okay?
Can you guarantee we're going to be out of here in 2 minutes?
I can't guarantee anything.
This is a
But
Senate
2.3.
committee, we're going all night.
Need a break?
Sequester.
Okay. Take a break. Take a break.
Really quick.
Fast.
Don't go home.
I think we're going to get through this whole thing.
Only have 10 more pages.
A nod or a yes from you. I'm sorry?
We're going to update the zoning code where it needs changing, but this talks about a specific
Development
area.
and zoning
Right.
review.
And no, we're not going to rezone Main Street.
We're not going to rezone residential areas. We're not going to go through and rezone the city.
No.
Okay.
Did you find
Just
it,
asking
Dennis?
publicly.
I guess I don't see that this is a problem, 9C.
Well, it relates specifically to the downtown area, which you say is in the downtown plan.
Well, right, as it is now, I don't see that it's a problem that we have to change it.
The height of future buildings
it
in
is-
downtown should respect its historic scale and character. Maximum height should increase with additional distance from Main Street. I don't see this exact language. I think we may have changed it here a little bit.
Well,
But certainly it's consistent with it.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, I've got
But
a
the
problem with
statement
word
isn't
desired.
inconsistent.
Yeah.
You know, maybe we get zoning official from hell and they want to, their desire is to go 10 stories. I mean, desire is not appropriate word.
But it still has to go through public process to do
How
that.
about achieving building heights that allow for the mass and scale that respect the pedestrian environment?
All right,
Great.
that's fine.
That's good.
Next.
What was it, Randy? I'm sorry.
Achieving building heights that allow for the mass and scale that respect the pedestrian environment of Main Street and downtown, blah, blah, blah.
And I know I said we can't go back, but on number 8,
When it comes to me,
both of the versions I have on number 8 have "and" at the end and nothing after the "and." Is that both of the versions that you have?
was that
And refers to going
to
to
number
9.
9?
And number 9?
Is that?
Well, why wouldn't we have it after number
7,
7 and 6?
that's the last
It
one.
just seems to be hanging
Yeah,
out
it's a
there.
series, so
I
the
don't know
thought
what
was
the,
with the semicolon, that's the last item in the series.
But you didn't follow through on that on 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Or anywhere else.
Yeah, you didn't do that anywhere else. That's the only place.
I
in
don't,
the document
I don't,
you did that.
it just seems to be a dangling.
Go to the next page, go to outdoor.
Oh,
little
absolutely,
things.
they are
1 through
different.
6, you didn't
It's a
do an
different
and on
format.
5.
No, it's an absolutely different format, you're right.
There was a semicolon after every item,
Right.
be a period, if we're going to look at them as,
You certainly could, yeah.
there wouldn't need to be an and.
You did a period on goal 2, goal 3, and goal 4. You did
Yeah.
semicolon
Oh, right, yeah, those
You
are
have
different
periods
formats.
on the other,
on
Well,
goal
because
1.
we start with, the way you guys wrote it was encourage, and then you had different language for each one of these. So that's what happened, is how you
Let's
end up
go.
with, this was a series, the others are distinctive.
Oh, see?
We didn't.
All right.
We can do it
there
either
we
way.
It just seems.
shame on us.
I know.
go. I think the way it's formatted doesn't help either.
Okay,
We can do it either way. We can make them consistent if you like.
let's be consistent.
Wrong, it's not wrong.
Period, no and. Any other comments?
I agree with the comment. I don't know that I don't think we're going to do this today, but I agree with the comment that these could all be further defined and further refined using more specific objectives. And I would say that that's something to think about for the next draft.
You mean the next draft in 5
The
year?
5-year.
Oh.
revision of it. No, and to the point, I think it is a extreme, there's a piece that I'm sad that we just got for tonight, that this gentleman wrote, and it's very well thought out. I haven't read it to decipher it yet, but.
Which one is that, Andrew?
It was in the packet of
The comments?
community letters that came in, and it would have been one of the most recent
He
ones.
spoke, he was the last speaker, I think.
Oh, yeah, the other former planner.
I think he's very
He
good.
was sitting
in
right
his
there for
understanding of
Don
this.
Brandis?
The first half.
Right.
Yeah.
The picture, let's not let you off the hook there. We've got downtown buildings that have apartments up above. Take a picture of downtown Littleton rather than Dallas.
Definitely.
Something with some seating out front.
We should build some.
I've got a suggestion further in.
One thing that was in one of the letters talked about the housing component in the current comp plan and how we really don't bring forward some of that language. We talk about diversity of housing,
So like mixed use? Is that what you're saying, the language that we should be bringing forward?
No, there was one
Or
reference
multi-dwelling.
to affordable housing being distributed evenly throughout the city. I mean,
There was or there is?
that's what it says in the current comp plan.
Right. We don't say that.
And we don't say that. So I said to myself, well, that seems like a goal that at one time was valued by the community, that you don't put all the affordable housing in one area, causing, lower incomes in that particular area. You spread it out. I don't know how you do that practically, but I don't know how everybody thinks, what they think about that. But if we do that, then that somewhat, well, policy number 8, ensure that low and moderate income family housing is dispersed throughout the community and compatible with surrounding residential development. I don't know if that's something that is even practical.
I don't think so.
If it isn't, then we just move on.
Particularly with an almost built-out community, it's a little difficult, I think. So I think when you're talking about new development, it might be a little bit easier to try and integrate that.
I mean, we take development as it comes to us by a developer.
Right.
Well, I mean, we could have, or the city could have put in place a requirement that any new development have some affordable housing.
Absolutely.
Or buy out and pay for affordable housing somewhere else.
Right.
But then that's not going to put it all in.
Right.
It's going to gravitate to one location, generally.
Yeah.
I saw that section in the old plan, and, then I was kind of thinking how we do have these large areas of, low-income housing in the city, and, kind of how that affects a neighborhood and so forth. And, from the perspective of what do you encourage and how do you encourage it? And if you're going to say something about it, I think it should probably be making the point not to congregate it. That's kind of the whole idea of the new Mariposa development that Denver Housing Authority did, is that they intentionally put 4 sale units with, assisted living units with fully assisted units, so that you have this diverse community all in one, versus putting it all together, because then you have these people in the same economic condition all, they don't get any support to come out of that condition. Basically, it perpetuates a condition.
We don't say anything about affordable housing.
But we do say housing development to respond to changing market demands, competition, address the needs across all ages, and allow every generation to call Littleton home.
True.
I'm totally fine with the way it reads in the new plan. I read this policy of the old plan and would tell you this is a flaw, in my opinion, of the old plan. Policy 1, to work with the Housing Authority to act in capacities to establish policies. 2, to assure new and existing developments meet standard code. Both of those are probably fine. 3, continue the program in which land packages are made for new construction of low and moderate income housing for sale and small multiple family structures required for rehabilitation. To provide below market rental housing. 4, continue evaluating participation in federal and state programs. 5, a new technique to make housing more affordable to a broader segment of the community. I think maybe at that time that made sense. But right now we're talking about going up. And I don't need to attract more people that need more service from the city. I'd like to attract more young affluent families that are going to help this place become more dynamic, more eclectic, and maybe not even families, just people. Bring on every different kind, but going after poor people and becoming a oasis for poverty is not where I want the long-term vision of the city to go.
What you could do, I suppose, and kind of what I think the plan was trying to do was when they talk about if there is affordable housing provided, it should be more like Mariposa, which it has a mix of income units and more market rate housing as well as affordable. You could do something like that too, as an encouragement to the housing authority, and they tend to do that. I mean, that's kind of where the Littleton Housing Authority is as well. So
I think then we start becoming very prescriptive, and then we start getting into details, right? So you take that step for that. What's the next step we take for another area? So I think it's just, again, the overarching intent of this is that it is visionary and responds to what is needed, and I think the terminology that we used does that.
Glenn, you were going to suggest possible.
Well, you could just insert all ages, incomes into that sentence.
And it would be easy when we get to the neighborhood plans to repeat in every neighborhood something to do with specific affordable, working with the housing authority. Every neighborhood should work with the housing authority.
Why are we specifically addressing affordable housing when I think there was the notion that maybe senior housing, it's generationally, I don't think we can be generationally specific. I really don't.
I like the fact that Karina pointed out that we're talking about diversity already, and we're being visionary, not specific. So
I think by adding Glenn's comment of and incomes, because that is missing, I think that helps, get.
So we're adding income to number 6?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on 2.3? 2.4, goal number 2.
The bullet again on 2.4.
Remove the bullet. These do look like Littleton pictures.
Is David Lorenz
soccer
Park?
is not.
No.
Kelly pointed out to me I know that awful. It's Highlands Ranch. I thought that David Lorenz Park was in Littleton. It is not. It's in Highlands Ranch. I apologize.
I'll take a picture this week. Oh no, that's
One
not.
photo.
Go up to Windermere.
Throw your bone.
Yep. Sorry.
That's Centennial.
Island Ranch brats.
On, are you going to do 5?
Well, take care of that picture. 2.5.
That's right. It'll get you like
All right, 2.5. Bullet 3, it says encourage new developments. Encourage, again, just seems like too soft of a word. Encourage to invite outdoor gathering places.
Require?
Yeah, you should it's kind of written passively. You should say, provide inviting outdoor activity areas and gathering places in new development would really probably be a stronger way of
More activated.
putting it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
What's your active word? I'm sorry.
Provide inviting outdoor activity and gathering places in new developments.
So new developments to
Provide it.
Well, wait a second.
Provide.
But you got the building code, you got the zoning code. Not all code areas require outdoor areas. So,
This
come on,
would
you can't
be-
say you're going to do it when it's not required by the code.
Where this sits on
No,
top
this
of
would
all
be in cases where you're reviewing a land use change.
Okay, well, then it has to say that. If you leave it the way you want to change it, it's like everybody's got to do outdoor spaces. And
It doesn't override the code, Mark. You know that.
I'm sorry?
This won't override the code.
Well, yeah, but it's conflicting with the code. We obviously want to try to avoid that.
It's just a broad statement.
No, well, again, the building code doesn't require it for, if I've got B2, set of criteria, I build to that criteria, I don't have to do outdoor spaces and fountain details. You could demand it, use a power word here, but it's not required. Now, a PD is another matter. Then, yeah, you negotiate, you get your spaces, you get your fountains or what have you.
And theoretically, you could decide to amend the zoning code so that, given a certain project size or something else, you might want that
You could,
as a
but we haven't
requirement.
revised the code. So,
Right.
This
I'm more in the
precedes-
passive word
This precedes the
column.
revision of the code, though, doesn't it?
I'm sorry?
Aren't we looking at the code later?
Well,
But I don't think you want to put it in here. I think then you're,
Zoning review, right?
But that's later, it's not now.
I don't think you want to,
This document goes towards the future. We do this one first, Then we review the zone.
But we can still
but we haven't
encourage
written the
without
future.
requiring.
I'm sorry?
We can still encourage without requiring.
We're talking
I
about
can't hear too. Oh, I'm sorry?
We can still encourage without requiring it in here, because if you require it in here and somebody brings a case, then we are required to ask them to put outdoor living spaces. I'm with you, Mark. I don't think we need to have it required in
They
here.
pass it.
I think so.
Saying encourage still.
Encourage is
Stay
fine.
with encourage.
You know, we haven't written the code down the road. We might say the code, all of a sudden public spaces are not, we don't want them anymore for some reason.
I think it would just read better if it was encourage inviting outdoor activity and gathering places in new development.
Right.
That was my point.
Okay.
not
Okay,
necessarily
that's fine.
Move on.
mandatory.
So,
Yeah, you feel, that, come on.
so you get an application, and you're writing your staff report to make sure it complies with the comp plan. And so you're going through and you're saying, okay, policy, goal 1, policy 3. How do you write a staff report that says it does or doesn't encourage outdoor inviting?
I think you write a staff report that says it does or does not provide it.
Right.
So then is it not in compliance? Or, although it says encourage,
I think it says when you looked at the zoning, in the future, you may look for some incentives to provide that kind of thing. You
Yeah.
might say, how do we do this? And if you don't want to make it mandatory, you think about, well, do you add additional square footage or FAR? What do you do? So you can actually encourage that kind of use. And it's not, this doesn't do much. This really just says this is a priority for us at some point. And when you revise your design standards and your guidelines and your zoning, then you try and accommodate that.
right?
Maybe your zoning code in the future is, you give them carrots. You say, if you provide
Right.
open space, we'll allow you,
Right.
2% more buildable area.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got two more comments here. One, and we may have talked about this, but there's no mention of South Suburban in here. And are we, as a city, planning on managing our own parks, or should we say something like maintain the relationship with South Suburban for the oversight and management of our open space recreational areas?
I don't know.
I like that.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going away.
I don't think they're going away, and I don't think we're getting in the business. And I don't
So-
think we want to plan to do that.
So the way we're stating it here by trying to state we should locate parks would suggest that we're trying to,
Oh,
Be South Sub-
that's a different point.
oh.
That's where
But that's where it
parks should
becomes a problem, right?
geographically be located. It just says expend recreational act for existing parks and new facilities, for example, skate parks on number 4, paddleboat rentals, downtown amphitheater. Who's going to manage all this stuff? Is it our vision that we're going to create an amusement park? I saw a sign the other day, we're an amusement city,
Oh, yeah.
which I found amusing.
So do that as an introductory phrase to that.
Are you saying eliminate it completely?
Number 4.
Add number 7? Or
I
you're
would,
saying
I would add a
7?
number 7.
Add a number
I
7?
think-
Okay.
This number 4, if you read, it's saying existing parks. So I think what we want to do is upgrade our existing parks to include amenities that are, desired by residents. So you've got a passive park. Maybe you work with the Parks District to add an active use to it, a skate park to a passive park or something, to make it responsive to its highest and best use. So maybe all we say is just working with the overseeing Parks Authority, or specify South Suburban, that we work with them to do that. But the idea, the notion of, upgrading our parks with, you know what I just said.
Do we have are any parks under our management? Or are they all South Suburban?
I think they're all South Suburban. I think we've got some that we own, but I
So
think
Kittering-
we manage all.
Kit-
We manage
Kittering?
some.
Kittering Park is South Suburban?
That's
Yes.
managed by South.
Stern Park?
We own
That's
them.
right.
They maintain them all, though.
Yeah.
They maintain all of them, Bega Park?
Not
Yeah.
maintaining anything.
Yeah.
So we definitely need to,
Should we just eliminate this one? I mean, should we eliminate it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Is
Or
there a
replace
question you
it
might
with
want to think about at
coordination
some point
with
when you
South
talk
Suburban.
to young families in terms of, why did you choose Highlands Ranch or Grant Ranch or someplace over Littleton, if that becomes an issue for us? Sometimes it's because of the recreational facilities they have for the kids.
So I understand
and
that,
the
but
parks.
how does the comp plan influence whether South Suburban puts a skate park there or not?
The ongoing relationship between the city and South Suburban, the districts, they
Money and
have-
GoCo,
Yeah.
all those
So,
things. that
so are you
receive-
saying because of that, that's why it belongs in the comp plan? So I'm just trying to,
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing to have it in here in terms of what the city's goals are in working with that district.
Well, I would, as part of the goal number 2, should we put in there that first paragraph in conjunction with South Suburban Parks and Rec, or make it part of that original paragraph, and then it flows all the way through.
so let's look at Marathon property. They're going to put a park there. So that park is not going to be managed by South Suburban. It'll be managed by them.
It could be a private park.
It would be a special
It
district.
would be a private park, and the private park, again, we would ask them to try to adhere to providing some of this other stuff. So that's how we would use it in that case.
Right.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it comes into play. South Suburban was toying with the idea of looking, actually purchasing the Marathon property for soccer fields and all kinds of things. And you think, well, is that what the city wants? Is that the best thing? So to some degree, I think the more direction you give to how we work with the park district, the more.
Makes sense. Okay.
If we're calling out Metro Vision and the
Effective
other
this is.
places, then we should call out South Suburban here.
I agree we need to
And I
mention
like-
South Suburban.
You're okay with where Kurt wanted to put just in the goal?
Yeah.
I like how Kurt did
In
it.
the rest of
goal
everything?
part, yeah.
Okay.
The only,
That makes sense.
are you done with 2.5?
I think 2.5, bullet 5, I'm not sure, it was a citizen comment of where possible.
So it should say,
Locate parks to improve access within a half-mile radius of a park, within a half-mile radius, comma, where possible.
Or feasible.
Where feasible, where possible, where.
Yeah.
just start out with where possible, locate parks.
Yep.
Yeah, because there's some places that we're not going to.
Yeah, because it's almost prescribing
That
that we
scares
must
them.
put a park in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it scares the eminent domain people,
Yep.
All right.
and so.
That's, generally don't put them where it's impossible.
Feasible, maybe.
No, but I want to allay that fear that the city code says it's half-mile park, so we're going to start drawing maps and knocking houses
Taking
out.
houses down.
Walking in and telling them we're putting a park here.
Here.
Hi, we're here for your living.
Congratulations, you're living in a park now. Got a nice bench.
Still using it.
You got 2 weeks to move.
So that's what I have on that.
Mike, one comment concerns the photos. I think the top one's generic enough. The bottom one, we need a
We can do a little too much.
Littleton scene. Andrew and I will sit at Jake's and listen. We'd be happy to stage.
Like the inside jakes and the outside jakes?
Yes.
Large beer or small beer?
And
Both. Okay.
Great. Get the whole planning board out there.
There you go.
can't have more than 2 people at the meeting.
Like
This is-
Alfred Hitchcock, you put your face.
Yeah, it's like the director being in his own movie.
Appearance.
Planning board deciding your future.
We could do that. We should.
It'd be fun.
Anything else from anybody? 2.5. My only comment would be on number 4, where we say, for example, are we starting to get specific and kind of telescoping what we want?
It says, for example.
Just example.
I had argued for other things that never made it.
Okay?
We've gone over this page 6 times.
Yeah. This downtown amphitheater thing. Don't we have one at the county building? Isn't that an outdoor amphitheater?
Just on the backside here.
That
That's that green
Tub?
space. I think it's the water control area or something, or the drainage.
It may be an appropriate place, but I don't know if it's designated as a...
Belong to the county.
Well, someone made a comment about it. I feel like
A bowl, at least.
That's our amphitheater.
It's maybe.
Check it off the list.
Done.
Done.
Okay, 2.6.
Now let's.
2.7.
someone made a comment, I think it was a public comment about the bike rider going against traffic or something like that. No, it's right. It's right. He's doing it the right way.
Going the right way.
When there's a lane, you're supposed to, yeah, well, no matter what, you're supposed to go in the same things, correct?
Yep, no, that's right.
We've already taken care of the smart streets definition, right? We changed
It's going to be, it's not smart streets, it's complete streets.
Complete streets.
So complete streets are defined, and this needs to be changed, and I apologize, I thought we'd gotten that done too, so it is complete change.
When you define it in the back, you could link to the Complete Streets website as
that's
a
a good idea.
resource.
Yeah.
Well, this is the one where on number 8, are we going to take off that last or as may be supplemented or amended?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Striking that last part.
Yes.
And then as future versions
Stop
are
there, I
doing,
think
just
we're
make
in
that an
pretty good
update.
shape,
Yeah. So when the city council adopts the Metro Vision 2045, the amendment is, and the updates will be made to the comprehensive plan.
Correct. And if you look at comp plan, the 81, it still says the old one, even though they've adopted it, the new one every 5 years. So I think de facto, we know that it's adopted. So the plan may be out of date. Hopefully we'll get this updated. The intent is to have
I think it goes back to this is indeed a living document
Right.
as much as it's
Exactly, I agree.
visionary.
On the pictures, we have an example of mixed use at Littleton Station.
Well, and Main Street?
Also Prince Street?
Yeah,
there's
Prince
that
Street.
Yeah, Prince Street.
Live work.
There's one there.
Yeah.
We should photograph that.
Our own coffee shop, Solid Grounds, for instance.
Yeah. Well, I think this is where we get you at Jake's again, too.
All right,
Yeah.
fine.
Can we have to meet there, too? Do we have to go
Yes.
to every bar, coffee shop in town?
Okay. It's a bar and coffee shop hopping.
Well, it's kind of cool that they got a coffee shop in the morning and it's a bar in the afternoon.
These babies
That's
from
actually a
Littleton.
great idea.
No.
These babies from?
I can get a stroller and go walk in a park. You need me to do that?
Okay, any other comments?
Bullet 2, invite the increased walkability of neighborhoods. The concern there was, are you going to put sidewalks in my neighborhood?
I didn't
I don't-
read it that way.
I don't think walkability means sidewalks, because some neighborhoods, their walking lane is their road. Such as Shady, is it Shady Croft? You walk in the road.
Liberty Village.
Aberdeen
no
Village,
sidewalks.
yeah.
My neighborhood has no sidewalks.
No curbs.
Well,
We don't
call it a
even
gutter
mention
sidewalk.
sidewalks in that.
Do we define walkability?
No.
Ability to walk.
Yes, we do. Walkability, we actually define it.
The word, the definition.
Use it as a measure of how friendly an area is to walking. Influence factors include the presence and quality of footpaths, sidewalks, or other pedestrian rights of way.
There you go.
Traffic
Okay.
and road conditions, land use patterns, building accessibility, and safety.
Okay, any other comments?
No.
2.8,
My favorite group of pictures.
baby stroller brigade.
That is not Littleton. We're going to get rid of that one. I'm sorry.
Oh, that can stay, though.
It's the palm trees that
That
give
was
it
taken
give it
in
away.
Stern Park from the bottom of the hill looking up.
Could have been.
Possible.
It's a generic enough one, just,
Okay.
I think the other three you have are good.
Okay, so we can keep it?
No,
No, get rid of it.
it feels that it.
You don't like the babies?
That could be in a park.
It's all about the children.
But this is, okay, so this is an example of the point that I made. You know, the picture should be articulating what we're trying to show, a distinctive Littleton.
Right.
People strolling their, babies in a park is nothing distinct to
Women in
Littleton.
jogging pants and
Well,
yoga shirts.
I agree,
Strollers
Karina.
synchronized is,
we're talking about gateways, architecture,
Okay.
quality design.
Thank you, Randy.
Historic structures, and none of those women are that.
Well, one of those babies has 3 heads.
looks distinctive to me.
So we need another photo that's,
Okay.
Yep, we will get one.
Maintain and
I mean, it could be
expand
the courthouse.
characteristics that make them, yep.
Yeah, we don't have the courthouse, we don't have the town hall, we don't have the carnival.
Oh, yeah, you
Maintain and
could put one of
expand
them in
and
there.
I'm good.
Melting
And
pot.
then,
There's the park. I mean, we've got lots of stuff.
I think the old cars are fine, just don't call it out as Wheat Ridge.
I know.
Car show.
Just say
We
classic.
had a car show.
We had one at Western Welcome.
And there's always one at, or ACC, there's
Yeah.
always
we
one.
have it
Yeah,
over
tons
at
of car shows.
Rinky Brothers.
Yeah.
Take out the Wheat Ridge Gateway.
Yeah, all these go, these are our worst examples. I
Take a
think.
picture of the water tower above that.
Flour mill.
I think just, again,
Restaurant over there.
overarching comment,
Gateway or
Dennis,
The old mill.
driving up Sandy.
overarching comment on the photographs as well. Again, this isn't just a downtown plan, so the downtown gives us a lot of opportunity to take the right pictures of what we're trying to convey, so let's just try to mix it up. We do have other areas in the city.
Any comments on the wording and policies?
Yeah.
High-quality architecture, high-quality design is probably one of my favorite lines in this whole document from a sit at this podium perspective. I wonder if when we've debated this before, but should we call out, LEED certified, LEED Gold certified, LEED Standard certified, super duper according to who certified?
In 20 years, those won't be the standards anymore, I'd be willing to bet.
That was the argument before.
Yeah.
I think we address it through the use of the word sustainable. Sustainable will be different in 10 years, but
And
it still
people-
covers it.
People are often using bespoke frameworks too, meaning it's sustainable but not necessarily certifiably sustainable.
High quality, the intent is we don't want junk.
Right.
And what I like about the vagueness specifically about this word is this gives us the ability to say what you're presenting obviously lacks panache. So I like that.
What you're saying is we can drive a truck through that.
We can drive a truck through that anytime we want.
I like number
that.
4. It says that differentiates Littleton from nearby municipalities. That's a great line in that make the architecture unique as possible.
Which we've done a pretty good job of. I
Yeah,
think,
like
over
the brewery. I
last
mean,
30, 40 years, yeah. Absolutely.
Santa Fe Corridor has an architectural guide that'd be like Aspen Grove is kind of what is that, barn or
Barnyard vernacular.
barnyard?
Dennis, as far as pictures go, the Littleton Hospital might be a good picture, as well as that covered bridge going into South Bridge. That's very unique to the metro area.
The Carnegie Library was called out before. Maybe you could have Fondue Pot take all their awnings down so we could take a picture of the building. That would be very nice.
Any other
We have
comments?
some old photographs.
Yeah, some old
2.8 or
photographs in
2.9?
1923.
2.10. Oh, now we're on to transformative. We got 2.5 pages left.
Keep moving.
Ed had a note about number 3 there. Identified investment locations along the river for new development or redevelopment of those for conservation. In another area, it talks about conservation first and then redevelopment second. I don't know if anybody saw his comments, but did you take a peek at him? Maybe you could
absolutely,
make some adjustments to satisfy him. I thought that was pretty appropriate. The lower right-hand photo, boy, that photo's really got to go. That's not appropriate for
sad
Littleton.
river.
That's just
But it's in a
line up cell block 17 along the river, and that's not what we want to do in Littleton.
I have a picture of that river that might work.
This section opens with saying these are our most important actions to achieving our vision, and we need a long-term commitment to these actions, which one of them highlights the river, and one of our goals policies talked about the river quite a bit. So there's really overlap between goals and actions, but not to go back, but we talk about transformative actions with what those are, but we don't differentiate by talking about the goals and what they are and in what time frame and what our commitment is to completion of the goals. Just as a differentiation between those two sections, I was trying to get my mind around. There's actions in the goals, and then there's actions in our actions too. Presumably both take place.
Do you have a suggestion of what you're thinking? Are you saying we need actions in our goals?
This was what I was trying to align in my mind, and I didn't
Right.
come up with an answer. But again, there's some overlap or repetition of areas that we're talking about between them. And I just think it's odd to talk about actions, but we've also got goals that we need to accomplish. What's the difference between the two? Is it time frame? We do actions first, goals second?
Well, the goal is kind of the broad brush policy, or in a way, a vision for that particular emphasis. Policy is kind of the directive, and you would and like the gentleman was saying who was here earlier, the planner, usually you have objectives after that as to how you're going to actually make those policies come to life. So in a way, these actions are how we're making the prior set of goals and set of policies come to life. But we've kind of aggregated them into kind of new categories.
No,
So-
but, and we talked a little bit about this off when we were on break. If we think about what the intent, if I remember correctly, the intent of these transformative actions, again, to highlight the river as an example, outdoor Littleton is the overarching goal. What do we want to achieve when we talk about what an outdoor Littleton is? And then this is a piece of that. It doesn't mean that outdoor Littleton is only about the river. So this is about just drilling further down into a key transformative area or action that we need to take that helps bring to life the comprehensive plan. So these were the areas that were, well, again, the reason why we chose the word transformative is these become big changes that not only affect outdoor Littleton, they affect kind of all of the goals. They span across different goals.
So we say right at the beginning, 3 actions described below are the most critical steps to achieving the city's vision, or should we say achieving the vision of the comprehensive plan?
The vision for the future of Littleton.
Vision for the future of Littleton, which is what we started out with. Because I know we looked at the city council's vision statement on that wall in there when we started this, or restarted it. But yet we created our own vision for this document. And so we should adhere to the vision of this document. Because we did that earlier. We took that word out we're in the very beginning where we said city vision, we changed it. Wherever that was.
So Donna, does that address, I don't know that we're addressing or answering or even providing a response to your comment. I don't.
Well, maybe I'll just take it offline and maybe try to write an intro for the goals and policies about what they are in juxtaposition to the actions. I may be the only person that doesn't get it, but I just feel like there maybe needs to, I just need to be more thoughtful about thinking of how the two relate to one another and that they're both part of our vision, but one of them.
Yeah, I would say that
Is our priority, I guess.
goals
More
are
explicit.
broader, I think. Yeah, the goals are broader, kind of cover all the big issues. And you went through and selected, okay, of all the things that we need to do is said, what's really going to have the greatest impact? What's going to help us achieve the vision?
Right.
What's most immediate? What are our real opportunities here? And it's kind of what Andrew was getting into in terms of, what do we do next? So this is kind of saying, these are the things that are going to get us down the road the farthest.
So, go ahead, Kurt.
Let me ask a question on, when I look at these and I see this, typically you would put your action number one as your top number one priority and then go down from there. Is highlighting the river our number one, or is it focusing on activity areas and corridors perhaps, or even growth? But to me, if we changed up the sequence, focus on activity areas and corridors, and then growth, and then highlight the river, because that may be the long-term furthest out that we can look at. Does that make any sense to anybody?
But what was in this Inspire Littleton were the most comments by
River.
far
That's true.
on the river,
That's true. Yep.
far outstripping anything else.
And also, I think it's kind of the comments that you got from Chuck Perry and Tom Wooten when we did the annual study session. They said your beachfront property is the river, and it's really what makes Littleton unique, and it's really what we need to be focusing on.
And the council's emphasizing the river.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
That's true.
We could take the numbers off and just not make them look like there's a priority. Action item.
So I'm coming back. So the transformative actions are I'm coming back to the transformative perspectives. And the first one that said direct change to achieve the city's vision. So these transformative action is essentially us being a lot more directive in driving the change we want in the river. So it kind of feeds back to the purpose of these transformative perspectives. So that's maybe another way to think about it, LaDonna, is why those took so much more emphasis. It's helping to articulate these perspectives that we're taking.
On 2.1, that's where I was looking for the first item, manage change to achieve the city's vision. Did we change that to the vision for the future of Littleton, the same vision that's in the document?
What I have it as is manage change, guide and direct change, I think, is to achieve the city's vision is what I have.
So that's where I was saying, we rewrote a vision. We have a vision right here. Why are we not, just like back here, I was saying we should reference the vision of this plan, of this comp plan.
What do you keep pointing at?
Page 210,
No, the vision. Where's that?
right here, city vision. Page 2.1, we have the vision statement right at the beginning.
Oh, sorry.
And that's the statement we wrote using the city council's statement on the wall as a guide. But we kind of restated it for this document. And so we have our own vision for this document, so we should reference it
That's right. I agree.
as our vision. So achieve the vision for the future of Littleton, just like back here.
Yep.
Achieving the vision for the future of Littleton.
Yep.
So it's emphasizing this document. We want to implement this document. And we feel that our vision is compatible with the city council's vision on the wall.
Yep.
So I think all the pictures need a little bit of, the Santa Fe picture is like deadly. So try to come up with something.
A little bit more attractive. Okay.
I'll take a picture of the,
Should we all go drive on Santa Fe?
we should all stand out there.
I like that it has the light rail train in the picture.
Okay, let's wrap
And we
this
can show
up.
more corridor stuff.
Any other text comments?
funny.
And this, yeah, that includes action 3. Any comments?
So the comments we received a lot on these, all three of these, is to get more specific. And I think all of them, and maybe it is in that introductory sentence, all of these are going to require extensive, blow them out, really get down to the granular detail of where they are. So just in the interest of commenting on that, I think I'm okay with the way that it is. I do share on number 6, action 1, highlight the river. Number 6, attract the best possible development and redevelopment. I think best is a very arbitrary word. And while this entire document is completely subject to interpretation by design, I don't like best.
I see the value, when I think about these areas, there's a lot of good things we can put along the river, but we want to put great things along the river. So best works for me here. Because it raises the bar for us.
Or quality.
Is it good? Yeah. No, it needs to be great. Yeah. And that's why best to me is
Can we change it to the greatest?
Yeah, use great.
Because great is a better word than best.
It is.
Fine.
Okay. The greatest possible. Okay.
I mean, in real estate terms, it's highest and best use, but that doesn't necessarily mean the best.
Well, the best is used in advertising because it's not necessarily better than anything else. They could all be down here rather than up here. All the alternatives, I mean.
Why don't you, I think best is fine, or
Good, better,
great is
best.
fine.
Yeah, that's the best.
Well, I would
leave it.
on the same sentence, what are the identified areas?
Activity areas and corridors. Oh, the areas along the river, I'm sorry, that we identified in...
Track the best possible development and redevelopment
On number 3,
to the
it
identified
says,
areas.
And 3, it says identify the best locations along the river for that development. And number 6, it says
And what do you do there?
what you're going to do with it. So 3, we
So
identify.
these build on each other.
6, we do it.
Maybe move 6 below 3, and that way you'll know what those areas are.
Yeah.
The only issue is we did have comments, too, about shouldn't we, and I think Edward had this, shouldn't we be putting the conservation higher than the development? So you might want to shift those around, too.
I would put bullet 4 as bullet 1. Preserve and protect areas identified for conservation as a highlight the river goal, because our focus is not so much to just go ahead and redevelop the river.
Mm-hmm.
Our focus is to keep the river beautiful, in fact, frankly, make it more beautiful.
Yeah.
And then add opportunities, retail, whatever, to complement the beauty of the natural area.
So move 4 up to 1, move 6 below 3.
The only...
And reread it to make sure it
I think
flows
what
right.
the intent with number 3 was to say we're going to identify 2 things. We're going to identify those locations which are best for new development, and also those areas that need to be preserved for conservation. So it's really saying we want to identify both those areas at the same time. And then once you've done that, then you can start identifying what kind of development may be appropriate, or what kind of conservation practices or park recreational use could be appropriate. So I would think that has to be fairly high in the list in terms of first you go through and do your kind of resource inventory. What do we have?
I would like to move conservation up. The river comes first, the developer comes second.
I agree.
Any objection to moving that up?
No.
Okay.
You're going to move it up, Dennis?
I'll move it up. It's going to kind of mess things up a little bit.
Yeah, you got to
I think you have to. I think probably the whole order will change as a result of that. Like 1 and 2 then doesn't make sense. Like it appears to be 4, 3, 6, and then I don't know what the rest looks like.
How about if you were to do number 1, or do number 3 as the first one? Okay. Well, except then you're identifying it. It's like assuming you've got the areas identified. So how about if we split number 3 into 2, and we identify those areas that should be conserved first. So you identify your conservation areas, then you go through and you preserve them and protect them as the second thing, and then you identify the areas that are ideal for development, and then you go figure out how to develop them. something like that. Is that right?
And that's when you focus your investments in that area.
All right,
Sure.
that sounds
Yep.
good.
2 or 3?
On 211, 2 use tools, we were asked to list the tools. I don't think we should do that here. I think that could become a laundry list longer than my requested
Oh, we
list.
start to by saying such as.
Such as, I think is sufficient, correct.
And we are gonna bring tools in the beginning. We're gonna take a stab. Glenn's gonna take a stab of how do we articulate what some of the tools or processes are. Remember that discussion in the beginning? Not the pyramid, but some other visual.
Right.
Okay.
So that, yeah, that may get
But maybe that'll
addressed
help.
earlier.
Probably the map that shows the corridors probably ought to fall here, huh?
Our solution is go hire an awesome graphic designer and everything will get better.
Well, we actually, yeah, we have a company that's helping us with this.
Good. 3 on that, track to maintain desired development corridors. Is desired the right word for that? Identified development corridors, agreed upon development corridors. We're talking about this map way up front when we're talking about it, but is desired the right word?
And Glenn is saying, let's bring the map back, which I think is great. Makes sense.
Identified corridors?
To designated development corridors? We say designated later.
What did you?
It just says track to maintain desired development in designated activity corridors. Well, of course,
We're not saying what's desired, though, right? So we could say great. Great here.
You know, my comment on this was this is vague. I don't have a recommendation, but it left me flat. Like I read it, was like, okay.
it sort of seems like a no-brainer. Well, of course you're going to do that.
Well, the only thing that's different about it is it's being more proactive in terms of attracting
Yeah,
development.
that's what I was just thinking. It was like, when we spoke to, I forgot who the economic development director, her name was, but it's how do we, so maybe that's something we need to bring in here is how do we prioritize revitalizing or maintaining? So I think there's different wording here. I just don't know what it is right now.
Well, is the function of this plan for us to attract, or is it
Both.
to work with the economic development?
So the intent here of attract and maintain is, bring in the businesses or the desired use that we want in these areas, but also continue to make sure it doesn't go dead either. So it's both attract and maintain. That's
All I was saying is, I think, is that under the bailiwick of economic development? I mean, is that something we can do with this document?
To some degree, you can in terms of if you work with the economic development and find out what desired uses are, perhaps, then you guys are the ones that do the zoning. And so you can actually set up, do a lot of what do you call the entitlements before the property changes hands. So that's maybe the biggest thing we can do in terms of incentive is try and simplify the development review process. And the entitlement process, get the zoning in place that they might actually need. We might have to adjust our zoning accordingly. Might have to provide additional capital improvements.
So
in
do
the
we
area,
need number?
streets.
So do we need number 3 at all, or do 1 and 2 say it all?
Or could we make it that we work with our own economic development
To pave the way.
group to attract new development?
I think that's the action, is we work with it, and then
We
we
have an
pave the way.
economic development.
Staff.
What are they? They're not a department.
Department of 1?
What are they?
They are actually a department, I believe.
Well, they are, okay. Well, whatever they're called, we can just say work with them to attract new business, new development. That's an action item.
So the wording that LaDonna proposed, it start with Randy's, to pave the way to attract and maintain. So what was work with economic development or partner with economic development department, collaborate?
Yeah, I like partner.
Partner with economic development to attract and maintain.
Okay, let's wrap this up. Our brains are getting
I just have a
tired.
couple more. No to Fargo on the picture on 211.
Go to Fargo.
When I think of places that I think are great, and I like Fargo a lot, I actually really do, but
Yeah,
no.
there's no sunshine.
Are you sure?
Well, and we're so much nicer than Fargo.
It's a great town. Then the annexation comes on the last page. Is that what we wanted to say?
Public comment, do we want to annex at all? Sterling Ranch came up as an example, and I was opposed to any talk of annexing Sterling Ranch. They were just after our sewer plant.
Well, is that one of our near-term priority actions to talk about annexation? That's what this section is our priority actions, right?
In terms of directing growth.
Yeah. Are we?
Good question.
I think that's in there because of
There was that one
thinking the
property.
council still wanted to have that ability. So if it's not a priority for council,
It doesn't say that we're going to do it. It says we're
Right.
going to identify opportunities for it.
Identify. It doesn't say seek out and
Take action on it.
take action on.
It does say on the next
Number
one,
7 does pretty
approach
much, I think,
people
yeah.
and talk to them. But then it caveats at the end by saying, and proceed accordingly.
do we need both those?
We need both
Yeah,
of those.
maybe
or
we just leave 6.
Delete
6
8,
and 7. Delete.
8, well, 7, 8, whatever it's numbered differently.
So delete the last one that starts with approach the owners.
Yeah, that seems a little more aggressive.
Yeah, I agree.
So just stay with number 6, skip 7 altogether?
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
okay.
Could we add the word contiguous to identify opportunities for
has
contiguous
to be.
municipal annexations?
Annexation
It
has
has
to be
more than it
contiguous.
used to be.
It doesn't have to be.
Well, trail mark is not
The trail mark
contiguous.
becomes.
Trademark's not, and you could,
You can make it
yeah, we're in a unique
contiguous.
situation, yeah, where you could actually make Sterling Ranch contiguous pretty quickly, so, yeah.
You do flagpoling and creative things.
So, no.
Unless you want to say,
Definition of flagpoling in the,
I need a definition of flagpoling.
you annex a
As
road.
architect.
Yeah.
You what?
You annex down a roadway?
Like
Oh, you create
C-470,
a road and just,
you annex down C-470 because it's public land, or
You
across
annex
the reservoir
Wadsworth.
because it's public land.
You get over there.
didn't we use the lake there, the reservoir,
Uh,
to get to it?
I don't know if we did, I think C-470 got us to Trailmark, and then the city actually purchased one property, was my understanding. Annexed that and then sold it after the annexation.
Okay.
Oh, really? And then sold it. I love
The
that one.
images don't really show me growth of Littleton, so we'll work on those.
Even the top one, which is Littleton, is not a very exciting.
Can't even see what it is. So
Okay, good.
Medical office.
I think,
Anyone who
How
wants
does the
to
board
take
think?
photos, I'm going to be taking photos the next few days, so
Oh,
Make sure
please
it's a
join
sunny
me.
day.
I know, that's a problem.
the last one, the photo that shows Marzick Fine Foods in Denver, we can do like blueberries or something.
Oh, yeah,
You know, just a
Or a Tony's.
delightful little Tony's.
Tony's.
Yeah,
Is there Tony's in Littleton?
Tony's is
Not
not
anymore.
Littleton.
No.
No,
Not in Littleton?
it's not.
Not
It used to
anymore.
be, it's not anymore.
Used to be a long time ago.
Yeah.
how does everybody,
You're behind the times.
I don't, it wasn't part of our,
Before Safeway was redeveloped, Tony's was on Broadway. And
Tony's was
Minute.
on, right. Is
On
that there
Broadway,
anymore?
yeah.
No, Safeway got redeveloped and
okay, guys, you can talk about Tony's or whatever after I'm done.
Yeah,
So, I want to go home. I got to get up at 5 and get on an airplane. So,
Why?
we didn't do it in the motion, but I don't know if it matters to have another study session.
Okay.
Yeah, you can't do it in motion for our agenda, but if you want to, we have the ability to set special meetings, so
Okay.
if you feel,
How does the board feel about a study session on the 23rd to review the changes?
Randy, you're not here, I believe.
I'm not here on the 23rd.
Are you here on the 24th? Thursday?
No, I'm gone 20.
So while you look at that, so I don't know, I mean, I think we can quickly go through the changes and review them even via email. I don't know that we'll have to necessarily meet, or I don't think it'll be as long as the session's this, but we haven't gone through the public comments in maybe as much diligence as we should.
Well, and that's what we thought. I think
People agree.
you now
You guys
have
agree?
a fuller set. You have more time, I think, to go through those and kind of, we've done some summarization, but I think it'd be great for each of you to do as much of that as possible, to go through and read them and make sure we're catching the key
Yeah,
points.
and to be fair, Karina, I spent like 6 hours reading all these public comments.
That's a lot.
And certainly do your own effort. And
Yeah.
do your own effort.
So that's what I'm kind of asking, like, do we feel we've done enough collectively that we can do it on our own, that we don't have to have another study session around it, or?
One thing
Question.
I was thinking of, because we do have a consultant that has this all laid out, and with the level of changes, to be honest, kind of I'm backtracking a little bit, I don't know if we'd have another draft for you by October 28th. With
Okay.
all the changes. We'll look and we'll try, but I don't think we'd have all new pictures, all new graphics, and the Word thing laid out by then.
I think the next draft has to be the one that goes back to public hearing.
Right.
And should have the time to do so.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for November 5th as being the intended council time?
I think what we were trying to do is get it before the council that you had 2 study sessions with. That was kind of my goal, but I mean, that's not the end of the world.
When
And,
are they no longer that council?
That's their last meeting.
November
6th.
19th. And November 19th is kind of a coronation night. They really don't want much on the agenda.
Can we put in a special meeting before it changes? Like between November 5th and November 19th? Is that possible?
Council?
Oh, for council?
I would think that would be perceived as.
What are the
early.
optics of that?
Yeah,
During election season?
yeah.
Yeah, it'd be after we know who the new council members are.
Yeah,
before
so
they
that's probably
take-
not good either. Okay.
Well, I don't think we certainly don't want to look like we're rushing this through, so.
We will certainly try. I'd love to have it
With
done.
eight-
It's just, I know
8 years.
it's a little out of our control a
another
little
year.
bit.
I think you do the best you can, right?
Find out when you think you might have a draft, and send out an email on what you think the new schedule might be.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree. I don't know that another work session's going to help
No,
at this point.
I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
Unless we can have a completely new draft, and I really don't think so. We could certainly look at the words. We could provide the words.
The words would be the main part.
Are you, do you still have a working document, this one you have the track changes in? You still have, now that it's in this graphic design format, is there still a working Word document that,
We would have to adjust it. It got changed so after it went into that format that we'll have to go back and adjust it.
yeah, that's the problem, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And you can see how wonderfully it turned out when we brought it back. It didn't work very well.
Okay, well, after you've digested all this, just let us know what you think the new schedule might be.
Okay, great.
So, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We did it.